Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome to an additional 3 hours of random Fallout New Vegas locations. Now, if you've watched any previous videos or you watched my Unexplored Mojave series, you know what to expect. This will just be random locations throughout Fallout New Vegas with cool facts, interesting loot, stuff like that, and hopefully you'll learn a thing or two. Now, real quick, before we start, I wanted to mention that in my long 15 video, the intro to that video has been cut due to copyright reasons. But if you want to see the original video, the link will be in the description below. But the video will pretty much be unaltered, besides the beginning will be cut. Anyways, sit back, relax, and enjoy 3 hours of random Fallout New Vegas locations.
Maybe that's why you've come to need to see where the missile from Ashton touched ground down below in Hopeville. Down below in Hopeville. The Courier's Mile.
Become death, the destroyer of worlds.
Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be looking at Courier's Mile, one of the darkest places within Fallout New Vegas. Now this location has been requested many times in the past, specifically by San Lorenzo 7896, Human 981, and Andrea Carvalho ZD9er. Also, I just want to give a huge shout out to everyone who has supported this series. We're now at over 110 episodes, so I really just can't believe how far this has come. So thanks for watching. Now, as you return to Lonesome Road after finishing the quest, and if you choose to spare Ulysses, you can find Ulysses sitting at the very beginning, and he has some interesting words about Courier's Mile.
Maybe that's why you've come to need to see where the missile from Ashton touched ground down below in Hopeville. The Courier's Mile. My name for it. If you have a better one, you grant it. My choice in names won't carry past you and I. Lies along the road, running from the Hopeville silo, straight onto where the ground burns and wind howls even stronger than here. That's part of why I'm here. Watch them. If they attack me, try to enter the Mojave. I answer, not looking to kill them. Save them, if I can. There might be something saving in them. If not, then what I do is mercy, not murder.
So from Ulysses, we learn that the Courier's Mile was named by him. And even if you choose to kill Ulysses, it is still given the name Courier's Mile. Now, the entrance to Courier's Mile is right at the beginning of Hopeville, right where you exit the Hopeville missile silo. Now, normally it is blocked off until after you launch the nuclear missile from the Ashton missile silo, and it detonates over a part of Hopeville, creating this hellhole, which we will now explore. Now, something I wanted to show was in my Hopeville video, I forgot to show the women's barracks because it is blocked by this undetonated warhead, and you need the laser detonator to get in, but you don't get the laser detonator until later in the game. Now, there really isn't a whole lot inside besides your normal loot. However, I did like this chessboard and 2 beds, and I thought maybe somebody got trapped in here or something like that, or maybe 2 people. But if you go in the back, you will spawn a scripted event where you will be ambushed by 2 marked men, and you'll have to fight your way out. And there's also an average locked medical kit that has some good medical supplies in it, but really not a whole bunch of loot in there, but I figured I'd go ahead and mention it since I forgot it. Now, as you approach Courier's Mile, there is a lone marksman sniper who will have a marksman rifle, so be careful. Now, of course, you can take the anti-material rifle off the marked man if you don't already have one, and then there's a dumpster near the entrance, and then we can enter the Courier's Mile. Now, in my opinion, the Courier's Mile aesthetically looks very similar to Fallout 3, kind of that greenish kind of tent that is very present within Fallout 3, so kind of a cool sight to see within Fallout New Vegas. Now, immediately on your right, you will notice some weapon crates and a high-tech gun case, which will have some random weapons in it and some ammunition. Now, this is a really good place to stock up on ammunition and such, but this place is also pretty damn difficult, so make sure to bring a lot of really good weapons with you, along with a lot of Radaway and Rad-X. Also, having Ulysses' mask and radiation equipment is pretty helpful. Now, when I jumped up on this platform, I accidentally alerted the marked men to my presence, and they attacked me, and there was also Deathclaws nearby, so they attacked me. And it was not the way I imagined handling the situation, but somehow, some way, it all ended up working out okay. Now, of course, an encounter with Deathclaws would not be complete without an encounter with Deathclaw Jesus, as we can see here. So after killing Deathclaw Jesus, I was forced to retreat by the approaching marked men. And eventually I was behind this car just fighting them off with my anti-material rifle when I got surprise attack by a Deathclaw. Being panicked, I retreated further, pulled out my alien blaster, and got really lucky that the Deathclaw ran away because I was in an area too small for him to go. So kind of lucky that I didn't die there. And then I used the alien blaster to clear out the remaining enemies. That way I could regain my health and just kind of get a footing of what just happened. A very wild couple of minutes of combat, but really fun, and one of the reasons I really like this place. It's challenging and it's unpredictable, but it doesn't feel unfair, unlike Dead Money. Now, when you visit Courier's Mile, you're definitely going to want to loot everything. You can get some really good loot, some good healing, and a lot of ammunition. Now, some people don't really think it's worth it, but I do just because, one, it's a really fun place to fight and to test your skills, and you can actually get some pretty rare ammo in large quantities. So, in my opinion, it's definitely worth a visit, and it's a good place to test out your skills and see how you can handle so many difficult enemies. And up in this building, which is in the northeast corner of the map, we can just find more aid and more ammunition. And like I said before, this place is difficult. Here I was just minding my own business, and I just got ambushed by 3 Deathclaws. I didn't know where they came from, and I was not ready for it. So definitely be careful when you come here. Now, my second attempt, of course, I was more prepared. I could search out, look for the Deathclaws, and using my explosive rounds and a mini nuke, I was able to get rid of them pretty effectively. And as I mentioned earlier, make sure to bring a lot of Radaway. Of course, this is ground zero for a recent nuclear explosion, and towards the center of the map, you can get up to plus 25 rads a second. So definitely make sure you have some radiation gear or some Rad-X. Now over in this building, we can find a ton of ammo and some more high-tech weapons boxes. And then in this building, there's 2 interesting things. So first, on the top, we can just find one of those lead-lined supply crates, the metal box, and it has a breathing mask in it and some just radiation stuff. And then over on the wall on the second floor, we can find the imprint of a person. And what this is likely a reference to is what is known as a nuclear shadow, or known as a blast shadow, or also known as a human shadow of death. And this is just a really dark and eerie reminder of the devastation caused by atomic weapons. And we can actually see this in real life in Hiroshima. Near a bank that was at the epicenter of the explosion, we can actually see a black shadow of what remains of a human being. And it's just truly kind of heartbreaking and devastating, and it's a real reality that we have with atomic weapons. Now, in Fallout, they kind of got it wrong. As you can see, in real life, it should be reversed. The person should be black, and the surrounding area should be white. I don't know if that was a mistake or on purpose, or if this is supposed to be more of a humorous Easter egg, but either way, I thought it was kind of a cool idea to put this in a video. And one more thing I wanted to add is in that picture from earlier, that staircase has actually been preserved, and you can still see it to this day at the Hiroshima Peace Museum. So if you ever get to visit Japan, I highly recommend checking it out, because it's just so dark, and it's truly an incredible piece of human history, and it shows the devastation of atomic war. Now, on to a lighter topic. There are 2 undetonated warheads within Courier's Mile, so you definitely want to make sure to blow them up if you're trying to get all 30 of them. But you don't really get anything for detonating them, at least nothing that I could find. They're kind of just there for you to collect, and they do increase radiation in the area upon detonation. And one last thing I wanted to mention is at the beginning we can get the unique weapon Blood Nap, which is a unique Bowie knife within the game. So definitely make sure to pick it up. It's right at the beginning and very easy to get. And one last interesting thing I noticed is while I was walking around looking for a scenic shot, I noticed there was a skeleton kind of like hanging off this bridge here. And I wanted to see if I can knock him down. And you actually can. And here it's kind of funny because it looks like he's holding on for dear life. But eventually, using the explosive rounds of the anti-material rifle, I was able to knock down the skeleton, and you can, of course, interact with it. So I just thought that was kind of funny, kind of interesting, and I didn't see anything else on it. So there it is. And there we have it, the Courier's Mile. One of the darkest and most difficult places within Fallout New Vegas. Now, I do have to say, for me, this place wasn't too difficult. I've already had a lot of experience with Deathclaws, and the marked men are not too difficult, especially when using a anti-material rifle. Now, I do want to say, though, because of the heavy radiation levels, the irradiated enemies will heal due to the radiation. So the Deathclaws and the marked men will heal if you don't kill them fast enough. And because of the high radiation levels, they can actually heal quite fast. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. And thank you all so much for all of the support and all of the interaction. It really means a lot. All of the comments, all of the likes, and all of the subscribers are greatly appreciated. And I do have a lot of fun making this series. So as always, if you have any recommendations for the next video, please post them in the comments section below. And as always, until next time. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. The Army of Otters here, and today we're going to be checking out the Long 15. Now this video was requested several times by Wesley Gassett. So, Wesley, here you are. We have finally made it to this video. And just a huge shout out to everyone who enjoys this series and has subscribed to this channel. None of this would be possible without any of you, so thank you so much. Now, before I talk about the Long 15, I would like to go ahead and share what our good friend Ulysses has to say about it.
No damage done. Not yet. Maybe in years. Keeps the bear fenced. If Caesar can't drive it back, fire might. Only delays the end for the bull. A new wall for them to scale and cross. Once they're done with the Mojave. And Hoover Dam. Never again do you or any other courier and caravan need walk that route. Let the Mojave breathe without that asphalt scar raking it.
So Long 15 is only accessible if you choose to launch the nuclear weapons towards the New California Republic. If you're doing a good playthrough or just kind of supportive of the NCR, or just a good person, you can easily miss this location. This location shares a lot of similarities with the Courier's Mile. However, this location is more oriented towards the NCR. And it's also worth noting that this location is much easier than the Courier's Mile. Now, before the events of the Great War, the Long 15 was just a long road between California and Nevada. And after the Great War, it became a very important route for the New California Republic, acting as a trade route between the NCR and New Vegas. But obviously, if you choose a certain course of action within the Lonesome Road DLC, it becomes a barren, lifeless wasteland. To access the Long 15, you must first complete the quest, The Apocalypse, then just head to the Mojave Outpost, and then you can just exit through the gate, as you can see me doing here. Now, once you enter the Long 15, the screen will go very bright, and then you will be awakened to the devastation that you, the player, have caused. It's a very haunting scene, and it's just a very dark and eerie reminder about the devastation of atomic weapons. Behind you, we can find the remnants of an outpost that was probably manned by many NCR soldiers before the Mojave outpost. And if we come over here, we can find the ruins of some kind of building. We are not able to determine what kind of building it is, but we can assume it had many souls within it. Now, on a more positive note, this building provides us with a really good sniper's nest for clearing out most of the ghoulified NCR troops in this area. Now, something unique with the Long 15 is we can actually find irradiated heavy troopers, and the game kind of implies that these are feral ghouls, which means we have feral ghouls in power armor, which is just a really terrifying thought. After clearing out the ghouls, we came over to this shooting range, where we can find a blast shadow, or a human shadow of death. Now, I talked about this in the last video, but in case you didn't catch that video, a blast shadow is a darkened outline or silhouette left on a surface after a nuclear explosion or extremely powerful blast. Basically what happens is the intense heat and radiation from the explosion vaporizes and bleaches the surface surrounding the objects, or in this case a person, but the area shielded by that person remain less affected, creating this shadow-like imprint. And we can actually see this in real life in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and I've actually been to the Hiroshima Peace Museum, and they have preserved some of these shadows to this day, so you can actually see them still. It's a very dark and very eerie reminder of the destruction and powerfulness of nuclear weapons. If you ever get the opportunity to visit Japan, I highly recommend to go visit it. It's very dark, it's very sad, but it gives you a big reflection on human history and humanity in general. Alright, and now on to some lighter topics. As in the Courier's Mile, there is a lot of ammunition here, so make sure you loot everything, as you can get some very rare ammunition in very large quantities, which is always going to be very good. Also, the Long 15 is significantly easier than the Courier's Mile because there are no Deathclaws, and the ghouls here are pretty easy to kill once you're a high level, and assuming you've completed the Lonesome Road DLC, you're a high level. Now, we can also find Colonel Royez here, who can be pretty difficult to kill. He took a lot of shots from the anti-material rifle, but you definitely want to make sure to kill him, and you want to make sure to take his Scorched Sierra power armor, which is a unique power armor within Fallout New Vegas, so pretty cool and also very valuable. Near where I killed Colonel Royez, we can find a medical camp with a generous amount of medical supplies, so definitely make sure to hit it up, and you can get some automatic stim packs and some stim packs, along with doctor's bags and other useful chems. Now, I also wanted to point out that the vertibirds over here, this one has no noticeable markings on it. It just looks like a plain vertibird, which is interesting because we know there are NCR vertibirds. During the President Kimball assassination mission, we actually see the NCR vertibirds. Now, there's also some loot crates back here, kind of tucked in the corner of this valley, where the overturned truck is, so make sure to come back here and grab some of the loot. Now, there is a bunker, or barracks over here, barracks, but we cannot go inside, unfortunately, because it is blocked off. Also, there are plenty of weapon crates, so make sure to check them out. They kind of have random loot in them, so make sure to see what they have for you. Over here, we have a crashed Enclave vertibird, which is very interesting about why it would be here. Now, it might just be an oversight from developers, but I suspect maybe the NCR just captured it and repurposed it and never changed the emblems on it because it might be a waste of resources, but I don't know. And then over here we have an overturned truck with all kinds of supplies and dead NCR troopers, specifically dead NCR Rangers, around it. So as we can see here, just pure destruction from the nuclear explosion that happened not too long ago because of the actions of your character, the Courier. Now, of course, if you choose to not attack the NCR, none of this will be here. And over here in this back corner, we can find a ton of ammunition and some other weapon crates that potentially have weapon mods and other good weapons in them, so make sure to check it out. Also scattered around here, we can find ash piles, which are just pretty much vaporized people that we can find their remains. Obviously, there's nothing left because right over the side of this road here, we can see the crater from the nuclear explosion. If you attempt to go down here, you will be killed instantly. Your character just dies and the screen goes black. Now, this being the Unexplored Mojave, I wanted to see what was past this kill barrier. And actually on the edge of this crater, we can find a bunch of children's toys, including a toy car, a letter block, and a dinosaur, and a teddy bear. I wanted to try and reach it. However, it is protected by the kill barrier, so you would have to kind of finagle your way over there. And using the reload dash glitch, I was able to launch myself over to this building. And then, of course, once I was in this building, I saved. And this building is technically above the kill barrier, so you don't have to worry about dying once you're in here. However, trying to jump down towards the toys led to me being killed. So we would have to find another way to get the toys. So what I did was I hugged this wall over here, and I fell down on this ledge underneath the collapsed road. And then when I crouched, I was able to reach the toys, and I could pick them up. Now, this car is actually called Cuddle's Toy Car, which is somewhat interesting because this toy car is normally found at Black Mountain. Inside of Raoul's prison, there is Cuddle's toy car, and it only becomes Cuddle's toy car, though, once you read the terminal. I made a video about that in the past, and then we have a wooden block that just says take, but we cannot actually pick it up. And then here you can see me adding the toy car to my personal belongings, and I have 2 Cuddle's toy cars. Once again, using the reload dash glitch, I was able to launch myself past the kill barrier and into the crater. But since I had a lot of height, I saved right before I hit the ground. And the reason for this is once you reload the save, your falling animation is reset so you don't take the fall damage that you were the first time, and you can survive the fall. And down here we can see the actual crater of the Long 15, which is pretty interesting. However, once you're down here, you're pretty much stuck. I couldn't finagle my way out of here at all, so there's not really much you can do down here besides kind of look around. Now, this crater was probably the site of ground zero for this atomic bomb, which is why the radiation is so high. So if you visit this area, of course, you're going to need a lot of Radaway and a lot of Rad-X. That way you don't die from radiation poisoning. Alright guys, and there you have it, the Long 15. This video was long awaited by Wesley and I'm sure by many others. This is a very haunting place that serves as a reminder for the Courier's terrible actions. Of course, the Long 15 is only accessible if you initiate the apocalypse and use the nuclear weapons to target the NCR. Of course, I'm sure many players choose for the nuclear weapons to not target the NCR, which is the morally best choice. Overall, this location has some really good ammunition and medical supplies that are definitely worth looting. It is not nearly as difficult as the Courier's Mile, so it is a good place to check out and to stock up on supplies. That being said though, there is not a whole lot of interest here as far as unique or amazing items, and I do think the Courier's Mile is a lot better because it's more challenging and I think it's more aesthetically interesting. Alright everyone, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any recommendations for the next location, please post them in the comment section below. And, as always, until next time.
It is where we realize Wolpus did not approach us as equals, where we realized the wolf had come, and we watched our history die. Now it belongs to Legion, and all the death there now belongs to them as well. Not revenge, just a way of things when you own them.
War never changes.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. The Army of Otters here, and today we're going to be checking out Dry Wells. This will be the last installment of the Unexplored Mojave for Lonesome Road. So don't worry, we will have plenty of more Unexplored Mojave, going back to the Mojave Wasteland, and of course the other DLCs. As I mentioned in the Long 15 video, this location was requested by Wesley Cassette many times, so thank you Wesley for all of your recommendations and all of your support. Now before you hear me talk about Dry Wells, let's see what our good friend Ulysses has to say.
No, opposite of that. It's where my tribe was taken, where another history was put to the blade, lesson taught. It is where we realize Wolpus did not approach us as equals, where we realized the wolf had come, and we watched our history die. Now it belongs to Legion, and all the death there now belongs to them as well. Not revenge, just a way of things when you own them.
So Dry Wells was Ulysses' birthplace, but obviously he has no sadness or regret over what happened because it became to be dominated by the Legion. Of course, Ulysses served in the Legion for a while until he eventually left. Now, Dry Wells is only accessible upon completing the Lonesome Road DLC and completing the Apocalypse, launching the nuclear weapons at Caesar's Legion. Of course, many players might actually choose this route as Caesar's Legion is quite evil. However, that it is also worth noting that since Caesar's Legion utilizes slavery, and most of these tribes that are conquered have no choice but to either fight or be killed, there's still many innocent lives being lost. So if you've completed the Apocalypse, simply head to Cottonwood Cove, and now you can find the boat to Dry Wells right at the beachhead, and simply just click on the boat and it'll take you to Dry Wells. And upon the courier's arrival at Dry Wells, we will be blinded by bright light, and we can see that the aesthetic here is similar to that of the Courier's Mile in Long 15. Kind of has this greenish tint, which is very reminiscent to all of Fallout 3. So clearly, this greenish tint is meant to signify kind of more destruction, whereas Fallout New Vegas kind of has that more western feel. So it's pretty cool seeing this aesthetic in Fallout New Vegas. Now, you will have to fight off a lot of irradiated Legion members, and some of them will actually be using stealth boys, which is pretty interesting. However, unfortunately, they don't have very good loot on them, so you just want to kind of take them out and kill them. Now, I found this area to be a bit more difficult than the Long 15, because I just thought there were more Legionaries than there were NCR troopers, and the Legionaries were regenerating their health. Also, these Legionaries kind of have the appearance of marked men or ghouls. I think they're kind of supposed to be more like ghouls, but they kind of have that marked man aesthetic. Now, a key feature here is we can see these burnt out tents that were clearly obliterated by the atomic explosion. And just like in the Courier's Mile and Long 15, there is a plethora of ammunition and medical supplies that we can get here. Now, when I fought Gaius Magnus, he was actually pretty difficult because he regenerates health, but I shot his gun out of his hand, so what ensued was a pretty funny battle. So Gaius Magnus was a Legion Centurion, but now he is dead, unfortunately for him. Kind of funny battle, and I got a really lucky shot with the anti-material rifle, which made this battle really easy. Now, since he's irradiated, the radiation will heal him, so pulling him back towards the water is a pretty good tactic because there's no radiation back there, therefore he cannot regenerate health. Moving up past that house where we were before the fight, we can find this cliff where there's a lot of ammunition and medical supplies, and we can also find the unique weapon, Red Victory Grenade Rifle. Now, Defika Adam 3332 actually mentioned I forgot to show the Great Bear Grenade Rifle, which is located in the Long 15 and kind of acts as the brother of the Red Victory. Now, the Great Bear Rifle is actually a US-issued grenade rifle, whereas the Red Victory is a Chinese grenade rifle. Of course, in the Fallout universe, the United States and China went to a war with each other, which resulted in the world we have now. Now, in the same crate as Red Victory, we can find a missing shipment note, which reads, General, we found a seized shipment of Chinese Red Victory model grenade launchers and thought you might like to have one for yourself. They're quicker to reload than our Great Bears, but they don't quite pack the same punch. Still, it'll be nice to give those bastards a taste of their own medicine if it comes to that, right? And this note also kindly demonstrates the difference between both rifles. The Chinese rifle reloads faster, but the American rifle does more damage. So once I had that, I continued exploring the devastation caused by the nuclear bomb. Now, there's lots of ammunition in this area, as in the past ones, but we can actually find a lot of mini nukes in this place. Also in the Courier's Mile and the Long 15, there are several mini nukes, which are really good, because in Fallout New Vegas, mini nukes are quite rare. But make sure to get all of the loot here, because it is really good. You have pretty rare ammo types in large quantities. Now, along this building, which is in the northeast part of Dry Wells, we can find pretty much nothing, but on the wall facing the crater, we can find a bomb shadow, otherwise known as a human shadow of death. Now, I've talked at length about these in the previous 2 videos, but if you haven't seen it, just a really quick summary. Basically, a blast shadow is a darkened outline of some kind of object. Basically, that object is probably destroyed. In this case, it's a person. Because of the intense heat and radiation from the explosion, it bleaches the surface surrounding the object, but the object acts as a barrier, creating this dark shadow. Now, here it's opposite. Actually, the person should be black and everything else should be white. Don't know why the devs did it, rather to make it more humorous and less dark, or just a oversight. Now, I did manage to pull an actual photo of the human shadow of death from the Hiroshima Peace Museum's website. Now, this shadow is still visible today if you visit the museum, so go check it out if you ever visit Japan. It's a very dark and eerie reminder of what humans are capable of. Now, over here we can see the crater from the explosion of the nuclear bomb. However, we cannot go inside of it, and I really tried to get to the bottom of it, but it was far more difficult than the Long 15. Now, the kill barrier seems to be more of a straight line up and down, rather than like a floor on the long 15. So I tried to do like reload dashing into the crater like I did in the long 15, but it just flung me backwards and killed me. I tried it from different angles and I couldn't get through it, so I was kind of disheartened. But I did manage to get out of the map. So I was trying to leave the map by reload dashing, but I was struggling a lot, and eventually I got really lucky, and I don't know how to replicate this. I tried to do it again, but I couldn't do it. So I looked up and I reload dash, and for some reason it launched me through the map. And from here we can see the hollowed out buildings above us that sit on the cliff. Now these buildings are really eerie in my opinion, and they just look very ghostly and scary. Really good for that October Halloween aesthetic though. Then using the reload dash more, we can quickly travel around the outer part of the map, and we can go over to this building, and I actually expected it to kind of have no hit barrier, but it actually does. You cannot enter the building, which is kind of interesting. Now I try to get on top of the building using reload dash for about 15 minutes, but I couldn't manage to get up there, so if you want, you could try at it. If you can manage to get out of the map, let me know if you succeed if you want to try. And like I said before, I did try to get to the bottom of the crater. I spent maybe 30 minutes just trying different things. And at one point, I almost kind of succeeded. I used a reload dash here, and it launched me through the texture, but the kill barrier killed me. So very unfortunate. I kept trying to kind of replicate it or going at it from a different angle, but I failed every time, hitting this invisible barrier. So, a little bit disappointing, but, you know, not the end of the world. And then over here, we can actually see the end of the river. So, obviously, the game does not have a river all the way back to the Mojave Wasteland. Alright, everyone. Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Unexplored Mojave. I had a lot of fun making these past 3 videos, the Courier's Mile, the Long 15, and Dry Wells. Now, if you have any recommendations for the future, please leave them in the comments section below. I pretty much plan to kind of go back to the more original Unexplored Mojave series, but perhaps I'll try and add some more artistic flares to them in the future, kind of like I did with these videos. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate all of your guys' comments and feedback and all of your support. I couldn't do any of this without you, and I've been having so much fun making these videos. Now, one more thing before we end this video, we'll have a little bit of an epilogue as we can listen to Ulysses' final message.
Last tape, last message. In case you best me. If you're hearing this, you have, through blood or word. This message and all that lies with it. It is for you, Courier. If you want to know the why of things. This world, I've walked a good part of it. I stopped only because of you. What you did gave me pause. Long ago, I crossed the Colorado, the first among the Legion to see Hoover Dam in all its glory. An old world wall, yet bridging 2 sides. And beyond it, a symbol of a 2-headed bear. An idea great enough to challenge Caesar himself. Might kill him taking it, whether he won or lost. The bull needs to fight, needs the challenge. Without it, it falters, dies in the dust. Might be a lesson there in you and me. Leave the thought behind the message to you. My message is this. The destruction that has been wrought at the Divide, or elsewhere, if you couldn't stop me, it can happen again. It will keep happening. If war doesn't change, men must change, and so must their symbols. Even if it is nothing at all, know what you follow, Courier. Just as I followed you to the end. Whatever your symbol, carry it on your back and wear it proudly when you stand at Hoover Dam.
Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be looking at Bradley's Shack, which was recommended to me by Little Dre. Little Dre, thank you so much for all of the support you give in my channel, always leaving comments and giving me feedback. I greatly appreciate it. Also, I'm really thankful that you recommended this location because, to my surprise, I have never been to this location in all of my hundreds, if not thousands of hours playing Fallout New Vegas. And I fell in love with this location. It has a lot of kind of interesting things about it. The aesthetic and atmosphere is awesome, and it's safe for player housing, and it just feels like a place that I would live with my character. So I'm definitely considering making it my main base of operations for this playthrough. Now, in front of the shack, you can find some Jackal gang members, but using an explosive round from the anti-material rifle, and I was almost able to get a strike, but we got a spare, so I'll have to go ahead and take it. Now, behind the shack, up on this mountain, there's actually a kind of like hot spring. Now, this is just a really random pool of water, but I just love things like this in video games. It has no reason to be here. The devs didn't have to put it here. It's kind of random, it's kind of out of the way, and I doubt very few players ever even knew it was here. And you even have some steam slowly coming off the surface of the water, suggesting that it is at least warm or hot or perhaps radioactive. Nonetheless, I imagine myself taking a few baths here to relax my bones after a long day of exploring the Mojave. And as we can see here on the mini-map, the location of Bradley's Shack is just southwest of Caesar's Legion Safe House and just southeast of Nipton. And the thing that I really love about this location is it's kind of nestled in the back of this canyon. And of course you have the hot spring above it, and you have an amazing view of Nipton from far away. And it feels like a place that would be easily defended and just kind of has a cozy atmosphere to it. Now, unfortunately, these jackals don't really have any good loot, but I took a look anyway. Now, on the shack, we can see a propaganda poster for the United States, along with an American flag from the Fallout universe, which resembles the 13 Colonies flag. Now, there is a tripwire upon the first time you enter the shack, so you're going to make sure to disarm it, and there's also a shotgun trap that you want to disarm. Now, inside of the shack, we can find a lot of empty whiskey bottles, but not a whole lot of loot inside. But these containers are safe for player storage. We can also find a lot of American propaganda, and this propaganda is the same propaganda posters that we can find in Fallout 3. So, kind of interesting. Over here in a sack, we have some chewing tobacco. And then in a first aid box that is a very easy lock, we can find some medical supplies that would be really good for a new player especially. There's also some ammunition boxes with a small amount of ammo. And on the floor here, we can find some bottle caps, including a Sunset Sarsaparilla Star bottle cap. Then this bed is really cool, I think. They kind of put a roof over it. And there's also some Sunset Sarsaparilla bottles above it. But for the most part, that's all there is in this location. Now on the outside, I just wanted to show that there's this motorcycle, which I just thought was really cool. I would like to imagine that whoever lived here maybe got this motorcycle running and would go into Nipton to get supplies and the likes. Also, they may have had a child because inside of the shack there are BB gun bullets. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Unexplored Mojave. If you have any recommendations for the next video, please post them in the comments section below. And, as always, until next time. Man, Fallout New Vegas is so freaking beautiful sometimes. This was one of my favorite scenic shots I've ever made, and it was just a very simple location. But yet, here we are. Welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave, the Army of Otters here. And today we're going to be checking out the Ant Mound. This is just northwest of the RepCon HQ. Now this was actually recommended to me by the Folly 7. In my video about Ivanpah Dry Lake Bed, I mentioned that there was an ant mound, however we could not go inside of it, and I thought that was a little bit disappointing, but the Folly 7 said, hey, there's an ant mound just northwest of Repcon that you can actually go inside, and here we are, facing a very beautiful scene. So let's check out the ant mound. So the ant mound is actually in that barn that we can see up there, and then here we can see some crops along with a truck. Now this truck has a suitcase and a metal box in it, but unfortunately both of them contain no loot. However, it still makes for a very beautiful and scenic shot of Fallout New Vegas. Now, there are going to be a few ants outside of the mound, so you're going to want to make sure to kill them. But the big thing to watch out here are for fiends, because there's a lot of fiends over here by the Allied Technologies offices. They will come over here and attack you, and you'll have to fight them, as you can see me doing here. After taking out all of the fiends, we can actually explore around the barn peacefully. Now, around the barn, you're going to find several ant refuse piles. Now, these piles are actually dead humans. These piles are what remains of the ants' victims. And we can see that there are several of them surrounding this barn. So these ants are clearly very dangerous and have killed a lot of people, which is a little bit surprising because once you're a higher level, you can kill them pretty easily. And the NCR is not far from this location. Again, this just kind of shows that the NCR is disorganized and is spread too thin. Now here we can see the location of the ant mound on the mini-map, again just northwest of Repcon HQ. Now unfortunately these piles usually don't have much in them. Sometimes you might find some bobby pins or a small amount of ammunition, but nothing that great, and I don't know if it's really worth your time to go through all of them like I did. Then on the top floor of the barn, we can find some ammunition boxes which have okay loot. They have flamer fuel, which is of course good for killing ants, but I'm using the Riot's shotgun, which is just a murder weapon and will kill anything in the game. Now, inside of the cave, it looks like there are some forks in the road, but the forks always lead to a dead end. So there is actually only one true route in this cave, and that cave will lead you to the Ant Queen. So as you make your way through, just kill any ants that you see, but I just found this location to be very easy when using the Riot shotgun. And eventually you'll come to the main chamber, which is kind of at the bottom of these ramps here. And inside you will find the giant ant queen, and it is absolutely a behemoth of an ant, but I blew her head off, so pretty easy. Now, sometimes the ant might actually have good loot on her containing ant queen pheromones, but for me, she had nothing on her. Now, we can also find some dead wastelanders down here, but they don't really have much loot, besides maybe like some frag grenades and a few bottle caps. So we don't get a lot of loot for killing the Ant Queen, which is unfortunate, but nonetheless a very cool location that is very easily missed, and I have to say, it's very beautiful on the outside. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Unexplored Mojave. If you have any recommendations for the next video, please post them in the comment section below. And until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be looking at the Allied Technologies offices. Now we'll also be checking out some of the buildings next door, including the abandoned warehouse, which has some interesting things inside of it. So let's go ahead and get started. So the Allied Technologies offices is located on the southern part of the New Vegas Strip, as we can see here on my Pip-Boy. Now, this is really close to the ant mound, so there's going to be ants inside of the offices, so be prepared for that, but they're pretty easy to kill, I found. Now, I was trying to find some information about what Allied Technologies did in pre-war, but I couldn't find any information on this company, so your guess is as good as mine. Now, inside of this office building, there are some bottle caps from Sunset Sarsaparilla bottles, and obviously whoever here is looking for the star bottle caps, and we can actually find two of them on this desk. but when I picked them up, the rest of the bottle caps disappeared into the void. So, you know, it's whatever, not a big deal, because it's not that many bottle caps. But definitely make sure to get the star bottle caps if you don't already have 50. And then at the end of this hallway, we can find what appears to be some kind of break room, right? There's some vending machines, but there's also some desk. So maybe it's like half office space and half break area space. There's a lot of tables and chairs along with the vending machines, which still have Nuka-Cola and Sunset Sarsaparilla inside of them, but not a whole lot of loot in here, and these terminals are broken. The best thing to loot is Tales of a Junktown Jerky vendor located on the floor in front of the rightmost vending machine. But besides that, there is not a whole lot in here, which is kind of unfortunate. I wish we had more information about exactly what was Allied Technology's purpose in the pre-war, if it was related to the war effort, or what was happening here. But unfortunately, we'll probably never know. Then right next to the Allied Technologies offices is an abandoned warehouse, and perhaps this warehouse is connected to Allied Technologies. Now, if you go in here before completing the quest, Birds of a Feather, you're going to notice that there's some Brahmin and a lot of weapon crates in here, and the purpose, or the reason all of this is here, is there's actually a weapon trade that will happen between the Van Graffs and Caesar's Legion, but it'll be interrupted by the NCR, and you have to kill the legionaries. So, somewhat interesting, and in here we can find all kinds of shipments of wine and tin cans. We can also see advertisements, this one for Abraxo, so pretty interesting. I thought it was kind of cool that all of the caravan stuff is already inside, regardless if you started the quest or not, which I thought was kind of funny. Over here we actually have a golf cart, or what is used as a golf cart at Camp Golf, but here it's supposed to be used as like a forklift. So we can see Obsidian using the same asset in different contexts so that it kind of creates a forklift, or it can create a golf cart, or whatever the player imagines it to be. And then over by these Brahmin, we have a Sunset Sarsaparilla poster, and up here on this platform we can find a door. However, this door is not accessible, and if we go outside, we will notice that this door leads to nowhere. So I don't really know why this is here, probably just a reused asset, and they didn't really edit it much. But as you can see from the exterior, we cannot see any door on the wall there. So kind of maybe an oversight, but obviously New Vegas was rushed in development, so there's things like that all over the game. Over here we have a nuclear waste dumping ground. Who knows why that is there, and I checked out the back of this truck, but there was nothing in it. Then this building has a somewhat cool design, I thought, but unfortunately we cannot go inside. And there you have it, guys, the Allied Technologies offices and the surrounding area. Now this area is part of the Southern Strip, and it's just right next to Camp McCarran. Now this area is kind of desolate and empty, which is kind of unfortunate. Obviously it was probably rushed during development, but nonetheless it's still pretty interesting to explore, because every time I visit here, I have very poor memory about all of these locations. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have any recommendations for the next video, please post them in the comments section below. And, as always, until next time. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be checking out Gibson's Shack. This is recommended to me by Little Dre, who left a very interesting comment saying that there's a unique item and a dancing guy laying on a bed within the shack. Now, I was actually unfamiliar with Gibson's Shack, but it turns out it's actually related to Old Lady Gibson in the Gibson scrapyard. Now, the shack has some really dark secrets, and apparently she owns it. So you have to wonder if maybe Old Lady Gibson has some very dark secrets behind her. So let's find out exactly what Gibson's Shack has in store for us. So Gibson's Shack is actually an unmarked location within Fallout New Vegas, and it's located just west of Gibson's scrapyard. Now, if you've played Fallout New Vegas, you're probably familiar with Old Lady Gibson because she's essential to the quest, Come Fly With Me. But upon discovery of this shack, I went down a big rabbit hole of who just this old lady is, and we'll get into that later. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Gibson's Shack is located just west of Gibson's scrapyard. As you can see on the map, Gibson's scrapyard is a marked location just north of Novak. So just outside the shack, there is a whole bunch of junk, and upon entering the shack, we will find a pretty weird scene. So there's a lot of junk laying around the shack, along with a locked terminal, and a lot of like empty whiskey bottles and a lot of chems, implying some kind of drug use going on in here. Now, laying on the bed is a skeleton, and we can find some like lawnmower blades and stuff near the bed as well. Now, over here, this terminal was used by Father Elijah to communicate with Veronica. Now, this terminal can only be unlocked upon completing Veronica's companion quest. So I have not done that yet, therefore I cannot access the terminal. But long story short, it was used by Father Elijah. Then over here on the bed is where we can find the scene of something very bad. We can find a machete in the wall with a finger laying on top of the machete. Now this is unique for a couple of reasons, because this finger is obviously not decomposed, but the skeleton is. However, one might assume the finger belonged to the skeleton. It is just simply an Easter egg. Now, Little Dre said the skeleton would dance, and upon picking up the finger, the skeleton did give a little jump. Now, upon researching this scene on the internet, I found all kinds of strange theories. Now, one theory is that the finger doesn't belong to the skeleton, and that it belongs to some kind of investigator who was close to discovering what happened, and the finger was left there as a warning to anyone else researching or investigating the situation. Now, some people suspect the skeleton is that of the real Old Lady Gibson, and that the Old Lady Gibson that we find in the game is actually a fake. It's an imposter for some reason. Maybe she had some kind of valuable item or valuable loot. We do not know. And another theory is that Old Lady Gibson murdered her husband for some reason. Perhaps he was abusive, perhaps he was a bad person, or perhaps Old Lady Gibson is crazy. No matter what ended up happening in the shack, one thing is for certain: Old Lady Gibson is not who she lets on. Something weird is going on here. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any recommendations for the next video, please post them in the comment section below. And as always, until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be checking out Nopa Cave. Now this was recommended to me by the Folly 7. The Folly 7 has given me a lot of recommendations, so thank you for all of your support. Now, Nopa Cave is kind of a desolate area. There is not a whole lot around it, and like many other locations in the Mojave Wasteland, Nopa Cave is based on a real-world location, specifically the Nopa mountain range, which lies between the border of California and Nevada. So this is really close to the real-world Nopa mountain range. Obviously, Obsidian did a good job trying to be accurate with many of the locations in Fallout New Vegas. Just outside of the cave, we will find some fire geckos, and the inside of the cave is littered with fire geckos. So definitely make sure to bring some decent weaponry so we can clear it out. Now, Nopa Cave is located just east of Red Rock Canyon and really close to Chance's map, as you can see here on my Pip-Boy. Upon entering the cave, you will notice that there's like a little branching section, but that actually doesn't go anywhere. It's just a dead end. And as we go throughout the cave, we're going to find a lot of these glowing mushrooms, and then, of course, the fire geckos. I brought Veronica with me, and she just decided to punch the geckos. I always find it amusing how she fights. And it is actually pretty easy to clear out, especially if you're a higher level. I'm using the riot shotgun, which is very overpowered. Now, over in this section of the cave, there is not a whole lot here. Now, if we go over to the next chamber, we can actually find some pretty decent loot. So, like before, there's some fire geckos. There's more in this chamber than the other chamber. And I almost killed Veronica here. But after you kill all the fire geckos, there will be a dead super mutant master. And on his body, we can actually find a fat man. Now, there are not many fat mans within Fallout New Vegas that are just there as loot. Some of them include the Red Rock Canyon Mountain Pass and the Cottonwood Cove Crater. But as you can see, it's right there and pretty easy to get. So this might be the easiest fat man in the game. Over here, we'll find a skeleton along with an adventurer's pack next to the skeleton, implying that this was some kind of adventurer who met his end against the fire geckos. So while I was doing some research about this cave in Fallout New Vegas, it mentioned that there were a lot of trilobite fossils within the caves, but now it's been claimed by fire geckos, which we can obviously see. Now, I did some research in real life, and I found out that the actual Nopa range in real life is known for trilobite fossils. So we can see some real-world connections made by Obsidian. So I decided to do some quick research about trilobites, and I found out that they are an extinct marine arthropod that lived from about 500 to 250 million years ago. They survived in Earth's oceans for almost 270 million years before they went extinct. So a pretty incredible animal that survived for a really long time on Earth. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any recommendations for the next episode of the Unexplored Mojave, please post them in the comment section below. And as always, until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be checking out Lone Wolf Radio, which is recommended to me by Little Dre. Now this is a place I'm very surprised I never covered, just because it's a place that I'm very familiar with, and as Little Dre said, it's surrounded with mystery, and it has a beautiful view to boot. And as you can see here, you can get some very beautiful views of Prim and the Ivanpah dry lake bed. And you also get some views of the southern portion of Good Springs and the NCR Correctional Facility to the north. So a very beautiful area. So why is this place a little mysterious? Well, for one, this actually used to belong to a conspiracy theorist. So during the pre-war era, this was like a pirate radio station, and a conspiracy theorist ran it, and he had a relentless campaign against the evils of government, and was fighting the good fight with his voice. Albeit, the devastation of the Great War destroyed his resolve, and he failed to continue his mission after the Great War, but he did survive the nuclear apocalypse because of his location. And he was somewhat close to the Mesquite Mountains crater where a nuclear explosion did happen, so he probably would have seen at least the mushroom cloud from his location. And for his broadcasting station, he just used a trailer, and on the outside of the trailer, he wrote, "Keep out," and on the interior left-hand wall, he wrote, "Everyone is gone, I am all alone, let it all end." So he was clearly suffering from the aftershock of surviving the nuclear apocalypse, and who knows what his fate was. And I wanted to mention that there are some giant geckos near this area, but they're pretty easy to kill, and they'll provide good XP for lower levels, so definitely a place you probably want to visit if you are lower level. Now, as I said, this location is near Good Springs and Prim. It's actually right in between both of them, just to the west, up in the mountains. And as we approach Lone Wolf Radio, we'll notice several antennas that were obviously used for broadcasting. And these antennas actually have no hit barrier, so you can actually penetrate yourself with them, which I found quite humorous. And I also wanted to mention that this location was designed by Denise McMurray, and McMurray drew inspiration from a conspiracy theorist who spoke at the corner of her university, the University of Oregon, and she imagined what he would sound like if he had a radio station. And this area was designed as an abandoned area mainly for the player to loot technology items. And there's the graffiti on the inner wall. And actually, if you visit this location early game, you can get almost all of the components you need to fix Eddie. In order to fix Eddie, you need a high enough repair skill or science skill, but you can actually circumvent that with certain computer parts which can be found in the trailer. As far as loot, there isn't much. There's a Sunset Sarsaparilla Star bottle cap, along with a copy of the Wasteland Survival Guide, which I've already found. And then here we can see Veronica glitching through the trailer, and we can just see her head watching me as I loot. And I also wanted to mention that Lone Wolf Radio actually has some connections to a real-life underground radio host named Wolfman Jack. Now, Wolfman Jack was active in the 1960s, and he was the host of a pirate radio program popular with teenagers during that time. The way he broadcasted his radio channel was using very powerful signals in Mexico that reached almost all of North America. And during the night, his signal was so powerful, it could be picked up as far away as Europe and the Soviet Union. So some pretty interesting history that would otherwise just kind of be unknown. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Unexplored Mojave. If you have any recommendations for the next episode, please post them in the comments section below. And, as always, until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today's location I think is kind of awesome, and it's just something I found while kind of exploring the game. Now, this was actually the original intention of this series, was to just kind of explore the map and try to find things that people might normally overlook. And this is definitely something that I have always overlooked. So today we're going to be looking at the unmarked location of the Fiend House. So let's check it out. Here on the minimap we can see the location of the Fiend House. It's in between Westside and the Horowitz Farmstead, just right in the middle. There's nothing here besides this house. Now as we approach, there is a mailbox with nothing inside, and we can go inside the house. Now, usually, according to the wiki, there are 2 fiends that are occupying the house. However, for me, they were gone. So we can find some chems inside the house, obviously being used by the fiends. And obviously, this house is deteriorating pretty bad. We have a lot of areas where we could easily shoot out, or bullets could be shot in. So it's not the most secure location, but it feels really cool. And I don't really know of any other locations in New Vegas quite like this. And then I found a copy of a Patriot's Cookbook on the bookshelf. And the bed in the bedroom is sleepable. We can sleep in it. But besides that, not a whole lot inside the house. I just thought it was a really cool location. Next to the house, there's like some kind of well. And then various vegetation growing around the house, including maize that can be harvested. And then over here, we have a windmill. And we can see Mount Charleston in the background. So a very beautiful scene. Then if we just go a little bit to the west, we can find this large power station. This is right next to Horowitz Farmstead. However, there's nothing inside. We can enter, and we can hear the humming of the electricity, but there is nothing of note. And here, no loot, no bodies, nothing. Then up in the sky, I saw a green cloud, which I thought was very interesting, because I've never seen anything like that in Fallout New Vegas. So if anyone knows anything about that, please let me know. And then it just disappeared. So, kind of interesting. And there you have it, the Fiend House. Now, when I first discovered this location, I had a lot of difficulty finding the wiki page on it, but after some searching, I was able to find it, and it's been called the Fiend House because of the fiends that inhabit it. But otherwise, it's just a really peaceful farmstead that appears to have been abandoned. So, I love locations like this in Fallout New Vegas. There are so many unmarked locations that don't have much going on besides they're very peaceful, and we have some environmental storytelling going on. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this more relaxed episode of the Unexplored Mojave. If you have any recommendations for future locations, please post them in the comments section below. And, as always, until next time.
Well, things aren't great here, but I've seen a lot worse. We've got the fiends to the south of us, and that ain't good. The scorpions hang out at the Monte Carlo when they aren't slinging chems or getting their heads blown off by the fiends. Probably the best thing we've got going on is the co-op, run by Mr. Etienne. Get some help from the followers of the apocalypse, I think. Food from the people and for the people. Anyone can buy, but the profits are shared by the folks who make the produce. Locals got these little gardens that do real well. Gosh darn well, truth be told. Etienne got some help from that Anderson kid, I think. Anyway, we don't gotta rely on merchants so much. And it means the troopers can use all the food they make over on the east side. Works out nice. Oh, yeah, that's mean son of a bitch. I know the name sounds bad, but he likes it. He's one nasty old coot. Far as I can tell, he's one of them original super mutants. What came from the boneyard. Wandered about after that master fellow died. Eventually got caught somewhere around the hub back in NCR. Boy, they sure treated him mean down there. Cut him up so bad he can't talk no more. I tried to buy him just so they'd stop hurting him, but they didn't want any of it. He just showed up here one day. Couldn't really talk, but he remembered me all right. Ever since then, he's just been, well, hanging around, I guess. Does odd jobs for folks and smashes the bad guys when they come poking around. Turns out some of them night kids, whatever you call those sneaky super mutant types, got in and busted him out. I guess somebody named Tabitha led the bunch that freed him. Don't know much more than that. Some folks steer clear of him for sure, but you don't seem to mind.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. The Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be checking out Westside, and this video was recommended to me by Wesley Gassett along with Pepper462. So thank you so much for watching, both of you, and all of the support you guys have given this channel. And as the name implies, Westside is a decently sized settlement to the west of the Las Vegas Strip. Now, Westside could really refer to many things within the Mojave Wasteland, but specifically it's referring to the western side of New Vegas, and it is a settlement with many shops and many NPCs that is easily missed. And as we just showed, we are at the west entrance to Westside. There's also a south entrance, and at the west entrance we can find a variety of crops that would be used by the commune here in Westside to support their society. And at the northern part, outside of Westside, I found what may have been an entrance to Westside a long time ago, but then the developers cut it. But we can find a lot of barricades along with a wall and a for-rent building that's just very underdeveloped. And then the south entrance to Westside is located right next to the Thorn. Of course, we've already done the Thorn on the Unexplored Mojave, so make sure to check out that video if you haven't already. And as we do here so often on the Unexplored Mojave, let's look at the real-world equivalent. So Westside is based on the real-world neighborhood of the historic West Las Vegas, also known as Westside, an area located northwest of the Las Vegas Strip and the Spaghetti Bowl of interchange I-15 and Highway 95. So this is an actual neighborhood within real life, and within the game files, Westside is also named Doldrums and Vegas West, so some potential other names for this part of New Vegas. And as we can see here on the minimap, here is the south location of Westside and the entrance from which we will be approaching in this video. And throughout Westside, you will find the Westside Militia, which act as guards for this settlement, and they will respawn after 3 in-game days if they are killed. Now, I thought these guards were pretty interesting just because I don't really remember them in any playthrough of Fallout New Vegas. Now, upon entering Westside from the south entrance, you'll encounter the liquor store. And the liquor store sells pretty much what you would expect, some snacks and liquor, but its owner, Klamath Bob, offers some interesting insight about Northern California, along with his role within Westside.
But folks around here call me Klamath Bob. What can I do you for? Yeah, good old Klamath. Not a bad place if you like hunting, eating, and skinning geckos all day. It's a pretty dull place, but I hear there was a bit of excitement when this tribal from Arroyo came to town years back. All before my time, though. I run the liquor store in Westside. With things this rough, some folks need a lot of booze just to step out of the door in the morning. After I close up shop, I walk around and help keep the peace. Not that I'm good with a gun, mind you, but someone's gotta do it, you know?
So obviously, Klamath Bob was the one that narrated the beginning of this video, and besides some liquor and snacks that he has for sale, he also offers us a lot of interesting bits of information about his past, along with Westside and all of the characters within Westside. As we go to the eastern part of Westside, we will discover the Northern Cistern, and this acts as the freshwater well for Westside. There's nothing really behind it, which is why I skipped that part of the video. But as you can see in here, we can find radiated water, but any water out of the filter is not radiated. So obviously they have some pretty good water filtration technology here to remove the radiation from the water. I want to point out the Southern Cistern is located just southeast of Westside. It's its own location within Fallout New Vegas, just below the highway here. And if we go inside, we'll actually find some NCR troopers who are probably in charge of this cistern. However, this cistern is exactly the same as the Northern Cistern. There's really no differences. Pretty much the same everything, including loot. And as upon exiting the Southern Cistern, we will find that the NCR troopers will begin their patrol, walking away from the facility. And as these NCR troopers will walk around and go near Freeside. And then within Westside, we can find the co-op, which is growing a variety of crops to support the local community. We can also find a young boy named Hector, who is basically a courier. He just says he delivers messages for people within Westside, which means he is a very young version of the main character. Now within Westside, we will find some empty trucks, but there's absolutely nothing inside of them. They're just there for decoration. On the northernmost street, we'll find that it's mostly made up of abandoned buildings and a pawn shop. Again, we have another abandoned truck, and down this alleyway we can find some bedrolls showing the poverty within Westside, along with more of the co-op. However, these vegetables are able to be taken by the player and not be considered stealing. I don't know why that is. Over here we can find two people playing chess along with Krieger, who is a part of Arcade Ganon's quest line. Then we can find Miguel's pawn shop, and unfortunately he doesn't sell that great of loot. He sells some weapons and ammunition, but nothing that is that valuable to me at a higher level. And then over here we can find the Casa Madrid apartments, along with the super mutant, mean son of a bitch, who has some funny dialogue.
I wash my bone with Sippy. I have Pogo. Feeps a rope. Goodbye. Hi again. Masho Fabish. A pleasure is not. Goodbye.
And then on the western side of Westside, that was a funny sentence. On the western side of Westside, we can find the Casa Madrid apartments, and this is home to several illegal activities, such as prostitution and even human trafficking. During the quest, the Coyotes, you can actually expose the human trafficking ring here and bring the perpetrators to justice. So a lot of nefarious activities happening within inside this facility. And then over here on the southern end, back towards where we entered Westside, we can find the co-op. And inside we can find Etienne, who can tell us some very interesting information about the Westside co-op.
It might not look like much, but it's what keeps us Westside locals independent. We started it a few years ago. I admit we had a lot of trouble at first, but eventually we got some help from Tom Anderson with the followers. We're finally to the point where the co-op members can start making money from sales instead of just breaking even.
So Westside serves as a good example of what probably many communities are like in post-apocalyptic America. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching the Unexplored Mojave. If you have any recommendations for the next video, please leave them in the comments section below. And, as always, until next time.
The Scorpions hang out at the Monte Carlo when they aren't slinging chems or getting their heads blown off by the fiends. Not much to tell. Typical gang of dumb bullies and angry nobodies. They're holed up a bit south of here, in the Monte Carlo suites. They think they're tough, but anytime they tangle with the fiends, they get torn right up.
Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be checking out the Monte Carlo suites and the surrounding area. Now this was recommended to me by Little Dre, who has been giving me a lot of recommendations and has been a big supporter of this series, so thank you so much. And at the beginning of this video, we listened to a little excerpt from Klamath Bob, who had some information about the inhabitant of the Monte Carlo suites, the Scorpions, which are a small, unique gang within Fallout New Vegas. However, this location and this enemy is very easily overlooked, so let's go ahead and check it out. First, I want to check out the surrounding area before we head inside. So here on the Pip-Boy, you can see the location of the Monte Carlo suites. It's directly south of Westside and the Thorn. And then there are some mailboxes around, but there's nothing in them. There's also some overturned trucks, which are kind of used as barricades by the Scorpions. Now, the Scorpions are pretty easy to kill. Most of them are not armed with any good weapons, but their leader is actually armed with a .44 Magnum in near mint condition. On the west side of Monte Carlo, we will find an abandoned home, and this mailbox is booby-trapped and will explode. I don't know of any other mailbox in Fallout like that, so pretty interesting. Now, inside the abandoned house, there is not anything really worth of note. Besides, in the refrigerator, we can find some food and cocktails. But besides that, not a whole lot, and nothing in the bedroom either. But upon leaving the abandoned house, we will be ambushed by fiends in a scripted event. So a pretty cool event, and a lot of interesting things happening with this house that are easily overlooked. And then on the northern side of Monte Carlo, we can find a bunch of these like destroyed or burnt down buildings. And this mailbox actually had a copy of Today's Physician. So the mailboxes within New Vegas sometimes can contain decent loot. But as you can see, there's about half a dozen destroyed houses over here. Then this building, which is on the eastern side, is the Tiki Tonga apartment building, an unmarked location within New Vegas. But unfortunately, it doesn't really have anything of interest, as we cannot go inside of it. Across the street, we can find a bombed-out building along with a dead gambler. Now, this gambler appears to have committed suicide, and on his strip letter 7, it reads, "Those gangsters at the tops cheated me. I know it. They're cheats and liars and thieves. Their games are rigged. I've lost every last cap. Every NCR bill I had left. Those slot machines, you can never win. They're programmed to just make you lose, lose, lose. Their cards are marked so their dealers can cheat you. I promise you this. Invisible ink or something. And their roulette tables? Well, what a joke. The ball must be magnetic. And they can tell to land wherever they want. The people that do win there are plants, employees. There's no way I could have lost like that unless they were cheating. No way, no way. Those fancy suits can't buy them class. They're just a bunch of damn con men. They've taken everything from me. I have nothing left. Nothing. What am I going to do? I was supposed to win big here. This is where dreams happen. People told me I can make a fortune here. I just had to have the caps. And I could win myself a new future. And now it's all gone. All gone. So as we can see here, this gambler was suffering from a clear gambling addiction, and he was blaming the casino rather than himself for what had happened. And it would appear that he has committed suicide because he lost all of his money. So a pretty sad and somewhat dark reminder of the effects and potential issues with gambling. Now, from over here, we can actually get some pretty amazing views of New Vegas to switch the tone of the video. You can get some really beautiful views of the tops and the Lucky 38, along with the Ultra Lux in the background. We can also find a collapsed highway, but we cannot, unfortunately, we cannot get on top of it because there's an invisible wall. And one last interesting thing is on the southeast part of the Monte Carlo suites, we can find the Summer Springs boarding house, but there's nothing inside. We cannot go inside, unfortunately. Now, inside the Monte Carlo suites, we will encounter several Scorpion gang members, and they will be hostile on sight. There is no chance at peace. So you want to make your way through and just kill all of them. As I mentioned before, there's not much loot in here, but Yvette carries a .44 Magnum revolver that is in really good condition. But besides that, there is not a whole lot of loot. There's an average locked ammunition crate, but there wasn't much inside of it. And there's also some Sunset Sarsaparilla, but again, not much loot in here, which is quite unfortunate. However, there are some interesting things about this place, these apartments, and it is mainly that the Scorpions appear to be a pretty organized gang. As we can see in this room, this would be the kids' room. There's a teddy bear and also a crib, and they also have other rooms that could be used for making ammunition, having a sleeping quarters, dining rooms, a workplace, and they always have a guard outside. So they are somewhat organized. Despite the fact they are not very good at fighting, however, there is a dead fiend inside, implying they were attacked by a fiend, but they killed him and did God knows what to him. Now, it's also worth mentioning that there is a poster for the Sierra Madre within this apartment building, so that is pretty interesting and a little Easter egg towards the DLC. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Unexplored Mojave. Now, one thing I wanted to mention was the strip letter that we found on the Gambler earlier is actually a part of several letters within Fallout New Vegas. There are 11 of them in total, and they all tell a different story about someone on the New Vegas Strip. So I just thought it was somewhat interesting and maybe something we'll get into later. And as always, if you have any recommendations for the next video, please post them in the comments section below. And until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be taking a quick stop at Carlyle St. Clair's house. This is a small shack in the northern part of New Vegas that belongs to Carlyle St. Clair III. Now, this is a pretty easily missed location, and the character is also kind of easily missed because it's during the Mortimer quest at the Ultralux, the Beyond the Beef quest. This was the original target for the Ultralux to be eaten. Of course, they were cannibals. However, he escaped and he became extremely paranoid and suffered from being worried that he was going to be eaten by those at the Ultralux. Now, this is an unmarked location, and you can see it here on the minimap. It's north of New Vegas, kind of north of Freeside. Now, this shack is pretty small. Now, normally, Carlyle will be sitting outside of the shack, but for whatever reason, he's not there for me. I don't know why that is, but be careful if you talk to him because he will turn hostile. Now, inside the shack, there is no loot, but we can find a refrigerator full of alcohol, kind of signaling that Carlyle's having a rough life. But not a whole lot here. Now, I wanted to mention during the quest Beyond the Beef, if you side with Mortimer, you can actually choose to eat Carlyle. Now, during that quest, Mortimer will tell the player that Carlyle's house is surrounded with traps. But as we can see, there are no traps around the house. So again, New Vegas had rushed development. Maybe there was going to be more to that quest. Now, the Beyond the Beef quest has always seemed a bit glitchy to me. And that's kind of why I assume Carlyle is not outside his house. Who knows where he is in my game. Alright guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Unexplored Mojave. If you have any recommendations for the next video, please post them in the comments section below. And, as always, until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be checking out the Las Vegas Boulevard Station, also known as LVB Station. This is recommended to me by Vic Round Cricket, who wanted me to cover all of the locations on the Las Vegas Strip that I have not yet covered. Now, before, I've already talked about all of the casinos on the Strip, but there are still a few other facilities that I haven't had an opportunity to talk about, so that's what we are going to do today. And of course, the monorail in Fallout New Vegas is based on the real-life Las Vegas monorail system, which you can use if you ever visit Las Vegas. Now, in Fallout New Vegas, the monorail is only used by the NCR. It is not open to normal civilians. Now, in between the station and the Ultralux, we can find some magazine stands, and you can actually get actual magazines from these in-game. And in front of the Ultralux, we can find a note that says Fine Dining. I had no clue this note ever existed, and this note reads, "These past few years, the very idea of fine dining has seemed beyond our grasp. Indeed, where does one even begin to look for something artfully prepared and beautifully presented by a world-class chef? Well, fellow epicures, I have found the on place left on this godforsaken earth with real food. I present to you the Ultralux. Ignore the rabble on the street, the petty farmers, the everyman types, rubbing their pitiful few caps together in an attempt to elevate themselves to some semblance of class. Ignore the filthy, disease-ridden prostitutes of the Gomera, whoring themselves to anyone with coin. Walk briskly to the fabulous Ultralux, the only building in New Vegas worth your attention. You'll know it when you see it. Enter the doors of their restaurant, the Gourmand, and speak with the lovely Marjorie. She'll arrange for your care. Dally not, for reservations must be made as early as possible. A sumptuous feast awaits you, dear friends." Now, I highly doubt many people in the Wasteland could read that very well. Maybe if you're from the NCR with a proper education. Anyways, upon entering the station, you're going to just notice a lot of NCR and some Securitrons for protection. But you'll just notice that these NCR troops are just doing some desk work. And then over here, we can find an NCR soldier who will greet you to New Vegas.
Bet it feels real nice to be carrying those weapons. That damn Mr. House has forbidden any NCR military personnel from carrying any sort of firearms on the Strip. Well, except for Captain Pappas. Mr. House still doesn't trust the NCR. A word of advice. The Securitrons won't put up with any funny stuff out there, so don't do anything stupid. This your first time on the Strip? Well, it's time to pop your Vegas cherry, friend. I'm sure you'll have a blast and be drunk and capless in no time. I can give you a bit more information about the various casinos if you're not sure on where to get started.
So obviously using the monorail is one of the ways you can first enter New Vegas, the actual Strip. But a lot of players elect to not do that and instead go through Freeside. But if you do elect to use the NCR monorail, you will be greeted by that soldier. On the second floor, we can find some empty locker and slot machines that the player cannot use, but the NCR will use. And then we can find the monorail. But a bit of a warning, if you go past those guards and you're not dressed as NCR or your reputation is not liked or higher, they will attack you. So definitely make sure to not use it unless you want to fight them or if you have the proper equipment or the proper reputation. Then along this wall we can find various propaganda, which includes but is not limited to women fighting in the NCR. Obviously Caesar does not allow women to fight, about the NCR spreading democracy, and a warning about prostitutes who spread diseases, STDs. And then we have some other posters warning soldiers to be quiet about any information because info leaks could be bad for everyone, killing soldiers. Then we also have a poster about Rangers saying that Rangers are your friend. They might be scary, but they are badasses and good at what they do. I always thought these propaganda posters were pretty cool because these are newer things that have been printed and made, and obviously it's something that the NCR views as valuable to try and boost the morale of their troops and also give warning. Now downstairs we can find various strip letters. Here is strip letter 8, which reads, "Dear Bravo Company, being transferred to the NCR Embassy on the Strip has been the greatest thing that has happened to me since joining the NCR. It's a pretty easy gig watching the troopers during the day, making sure they don't get in trouble, and then we get to spend our free time hanging out at the bars and clubs, getting drunk and partying. Wish you were here, Private Seymour." Now, these notes don't follow any particular character, but they do give us insight into the daily lives of soldiers and citizens on the Strip. These next two notes were stolen, and then this guard just said hello as I stood up, which I thought was funny. Anyway, strip letter 4 reads, "Nicole, all my years of hard work have finally paid off. I hit the jackpot last night over at the Tops. I'll have to use a lot of money to pay off some of the debts I've accrued over the years, but there's plenty left over to live well for the rest of our lives. I told you it'd happen. See you soon, Ralph. And then strip letter 5 reads, Bruce, I think it's time we see other people. We're just not a good fit anymore. Besides, I met this amazing and rich guy at the Ultralux last night. He's a real winner, not a dirty farmhand like yourself. I never want to see you again. Lacey. Also, I just wanted to quickly point out, in this corner we have a Mojave Express drop box, which we can use to transport items to various parts of New Vegas. So, pretty interesting mechanic that is often ignored. Now, we can find those strip letters all around New Vegas. However, they just all have different tones and they all tell very different stories, as you can see in this video. In my previous video, the Monte Carlo Suites video, we covered strip letter 7, which is really freaking dark. Also, I just wanted to point out that the slot machines on the top floor will just go by themselves, as if they're being played by a ghost. Also, I don't know how they work or how the soldiers would gamble with them, unless they just accept caps as a currency. But who knows? Also, another interesting thing that I noticed while filming this scenic shot was that the lights to the Ultra Lux in Vault 21 will turn off at the same exact time, obviously signifying that it's now daytime. I just find it kind of funny that they all shut off at the same time, like everyone was like, hey, time to turn off the lights. But, of course, I guess it could be on a timer, but the Ultralux is always so lit up, so it just surprised me. Alright everyone, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any recommendations for the next episode of the Unexplored Mojave, please post them in the comment section below. And, as always, until next time. I'll be completely honest with you, I had no idea you could kill crows in this game. But they just completely disintegrate, but I find it highly amusing. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be checking out Wolfhorn Ranch, which was recommended to me by Asgaro, so thank you very much for the recommendation. Now, Wolfhorn Ranch is actually a location I'm very surprised I have never covered in a previous video, because it's a location I'm very familiar with, both familiar with its lore and its background during development. And the reason I know things about Wolfhorn Ranch is because it's a place I always visit every time I play through Fallout New Vegas. It's pretty much the halfway point, for me at least, between Nipton and Novak. It provides a safe place to rest up, get some ammunition. Also, there's a copy of Tumblers Today inside, which of course I've already picked up earlier on my playthrough. Now, there is a lot of really interesting lore regarding this place, and a lot of that is related to its original name. Now, prepare for me to butcher some pronunciations, I apologize, but in Italian, Spanish, French, and German, the name of Wolfhorn Ranch is actually Accampamento de Ulysses, Campamento Ulysses, Camp de Ulysses, and Ulysses Lager. Now, these names obviously hint that this place once belonged to Ulysses. And of course, Ulysses is our good friend from Lonesome Road, who we've already covered in several videos that were very successful. Now, in development, Ulysses was supposed to be a part of the base game, and he was going to be a companion, but he had to be cut because of rushed development, and he was brought back much later in Lonesome Road. And here you can see the location of Wolfhorn Ranch, east of Nipton and southwest of Novak. Now here at the bottom of Wolfhorn Ranch, we can find kind of a jerry-rigged well. We can see these pipes leading out of the well into some kind of water purifier. However, it appears the water purifier is malfunctioning because it has radiation in it. Over here we can find various planters growing several different types of crops. Then over here we just have some rocks, and there's really nothing on the western part, just a ridge that protects the ranch. Then if we follow the path up towards the shack, where obviously Ulysses probably used to live, we can find a small shed with some kind of feeder for what I would assume to be Brahmin or maybe bighorners or something like that. Inside of the shack, there really isn't a whole lot. As I mentioned before, there's a copy of Tumblers Today. It can be found within the refrigerator. On top of the stove is a unique weapon called Chopper, which is a unique variant of the cleaver. And then we also have some ammunition crates and not much else. However, we can use this as player housing if you want. Everything in here is safe for storage. Moving up to the top of the ridge near the windmill, we can kind of find it branches off to two locations. One is just a fortification, and I'm kind of surprised this is not used by the Legion or NCR, as it does provide a pretty good fortification between Nipton and Novak and Camp Searchlight. Then over here we can find a grave, and you can actually loot this grave without a shovel, which is kind of weird or interesting. All other graves require a shovel to loot. There isn't much inside of it besides some ammunition and weapons and chems. Now, this grave is actually a metaphorical grave for Ulysses, because he had to be cut from the final game. However, of course, Ulysses is still alive, and he was brought back for Lonesome Road, and then the player character can actually decide Ulysses' fate, if you will choose to kill him, or if you will choose to let him live. Now, also, apparently, you can hear whispering at this grave, and I listened for a really long time, and I'm not sure if I caught it, or if it's just the wind within Fallout New Vegas. However, I do think it is whispering, because I just never have really heard the wind sound like this, so I will play the clip, and you can decide for yourself. But according to the wiki and several Reddit posts, there is whispering here. However, I couldn't find any audio of it anywhere on the internet, so I just kind of had to take the word of other people for it. Now, if that's the whispering, I think it's pretty cool, but nonetheless, this place is really interesting and is kind of creepy. Alright, and as always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any recommendations for the next video, please post them in the comments section below. And as always, until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be checking out Michelangelo's workshop, which is also known as Michelangelo's sign shop. This is an unmarked location on the southern end of the New Vegas Strip. This location was recommended to me by Vic Round Cricket, who wanted me to cover the remaining locations on the New Vegas Strip. A long time ago I covered all of the casinos, so we're going to be checking out the remaining buildings now, which leads us to Michelangelo's workshop. Now, obviously, as you might imagine, the owner of Michelangelo's workshop takes his artist's name from the real-life Michelangelo, who kind of serves as his inspiration. Of course, Michelangelo is a very famous Italian sculptor, painter, architect, and even poet who lived during the late 1400s into the 1500s. He lived to 88 years old, which is quite remarkable considering he was alive in the 15th century. Really wild. But of course, the Michelangelo in New Vegas is only an alias. His real name is Sheldon Weintraub, who used to be a resident of Vault 21 before it was opened to the rest of the world by Mr. House. His sister, Sarah Weintraub, is the one who runs the Vault 21 hotel and casino. So some interesting tidbits about this rather inconspicuous workshop. Now, there is a fun quest with Michelangelo where he'll send you to different parts of the Mojave Wasteland to take pictures of different signs in order to give him inspiration for his artwork. Also, this museum is based on the real-life Neon Museum located in Las Vegas. So, like many other places in Fallout, it's a real place in real life. Also, I want to point out that AI can just be really funny to watch sometimes. In the beginning of this video, if you saw, this AI was just walking all over the place, going back and forth. Of course, it's supposed to simulate actual people, but they move constantly, so it looks natural. But if you just stare at one location, then it doesn't look natural anymore. Upon entering the workshop, you're going to notice a lot of machinery along with a large central room. Of course, they're developing very large neon signs here. In this room, we can find some machinery and an electrical switch that doesn't do anything. However, there's an electrical switch behind that switch that actually turns on the lights. And I was really surprised that this did anything and that Obsidian would even program it. It just seems very niche and very out of the way, but pretty interesting. Up here we can find Kate, who has some interesting dialogue about what Michelangelo does.
He's the reason the strip shines like a star at night. Mike's imagined and built every sign, billboard, and light you'll see around here.
But after that, she no longer wanted to talk to me. Over here we can find a very large coffee sign that says like a cup of joe or something like that. Then we have a large central elevator, obviously used to get on the same level of some of the signs they're making. And over here we can find some old signs, probably made during the pre-war era. Maybe they're using them for inspiration or using them for parts. Or maybe they're using them to learn more about the signs. I imagine a lot of this art has been lost over the last 200 years. Inside of the back room, we can find a schematic for a billboard. However, in Fallout New Vegas, there's no crafting, and the schematic actually has no real value. Besides, it's just kind of a cool thing to have, and it's worth 50 caps. In here, we have a painting that is a picture of Tenpenny Tower from Fallout 3. I just thought I'd point it out. There's that picture riddled all over New Vegas, so you can try and find it if you are ever in an area with a lot of pictures, like on the Strip. And unfortunately, Michelangelo does not have much to say after you've completed his quest. He just kind of is a very awkward person, as you can see here. Then on the terminal, though, we can find some interesting conversations between him and his sister, talking about their lives in Mr. House. So an email from his sister reads, "What's shaking, my cool bro? You'll be happy to know that our vault is packed and coasting along. Even with those legionaries' bad news, we still get plenty of NCR squares down here. They are all chirpy and don't appear to mind that Caesar is cruising for a bruising all over the place. Maybe the NCR is stronger than we thought, huh? Don't know. You think we can trust them over Mr. House? I still feel all clutched over what he did to our home. I mean, yeah, it is good that we got to keep part of our vault, but I can't shake the thought that one of these days he'll just push me out into the open. Once he does not need us anymore. I tell you, we should never have accepted his challenge. That shuckster cheated us, I am sure. Anyway, you've heard all of that before, and I just want to bring you a smile. Cheer up, Buttercup. I miss you, Sarah." And then the message to his sister reads, "Hey, little sis, how are you holding up? I miss you so much, Sarah. This place makes me want to run back to our home every single day. I just had to write you so that I could feel a bit warmer. The warehouse's cold air weighs on me as heavily as the concrete that Mr. House dumped in our vault. Damned be his soul. Yeah, I imagine that you did not expect that outburst from your cool bro, but I am reaching the end of the corridor here. Emptiness is my muse. Doubt is my only mistress. Everything that once inspired my art slowly drifts back into nothingness, into an unfathomable void, where neither I find light nor its radiance searches for the spring of my soul. Bah, don't I sound pathetic? I do not wish to worry you, little sis. I just wish that I could be there with you, right now. Perhaps once I find my strength again, once I finish the latest suggestion for Mr. House, I'll venture into the Strip and visit you. My thoughts are with you, hot-headed roadster." So as we can see, for a lot of people on the Strip, there's a lot of discontent with what Mr. House has done and his way of governing, because he has absolute power and who knows what he really wants. So that can end up scaring people. I also wanted to point out that most people in the nuclear apocalypse would probably not know or care for who Michelangelo is, right? Obviously, though, if you lived in the vaults, you received a proper education, kind of based on the American education system, and therefore Sheldon and his sister Sarah are probably very knowledgeable on a lot of past events. Alright everyone, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Unexplored Mojave. If you have any recommendations for a future video, please post them in the comment section below, and as always, until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be looking at the NCR Police Headquarters, along with the NCR Embassy located on the New Vegas Strip. Now this was recommended to me by Vic Round Cricket, who, like I mentioned before, wanted me to cover all of the locations on the New Vegas Strip that I had yet to cover. So now that we are at the NCR Embassy, I believe we are pretty much finished at the Strip, with only Vault 21 to talk about, and we will talk about that later in a different series. So, for now, let's jump into the NCR Embassy. So upon approaching the embassy, you'll be confronted with this gate, and you can simply go inside, and there are two buildings. One is the actual embassy, and one is the police headquarters. Now, there are some trees growing here in this courtyard, which I thought were very pretty. Something you don't see very often within Fallout New Vegas. At the entrance to the NCR Police HQ, the military police, we can find a locked terminal, along with a soldier who was typing on a terminal that is not working. So he's just typing nothing, I guess, just to look busy. Obviously, a sign as to why the NCR is failing. Now, inside this jail cell, we have two people. One is a gambler and one is a traveler. I don't know what they did, but over in this corner we can find a strip letter which reads, Private Jackson. This is the last time I take your advice. I went to the bar at the Gomorrah, like you said. I got pissed drunk, kicked out after getting too friendly with the dancers, fell into the gutter, and puked all over myself before being picked up by some MPs. Next thing I know, I'm waking up in the drunk tank 2 days later. Thanks for wasting my pass, jerk. Private Daniels. And then in the back of the MP police building, we can find a hard-locked door, which will take us to the armory. And there's some ammunition and stuff within the armory that might be good if you're a lower-level player. However, to me, it wasn't really worth risking negative reputation with the NCR. Supposedly, there is a stealth boy inside of the armory, but I could not find it. So if you know where it is, put it in the comments below. And on the locked terminal, there wasn't a whole lot besides some security notices about the New Vegas Strip. Then heading across to the embassy building, we will find we are greeted by a secretary and along with some NCR soldiers. Also, there appears to be planters at the entrance, which I thought was interesting, but there's no plants inside of them. Inside the offices on the left-hand side of the building, we can find these ambassador final reports, which offer some interesting insight on the situation on the Strip. The first one from Philip Granger reads, Final report, Ambassador Philip Granger. With my term here coming to a close, I'm taking a moment to reflect on my accomplishments here. Sadly, they are few and far between. The politics between the families and Mr. House have made it incredibly difficult to deal with any of them. The Omertas are a group of sleazy lowlives pretending to be something they aren't. The White Glove Society gives me the creeps. There's something strange going on with them, and I'm not sure I want to know what it is. The chairmen are thugs that dress themselves up in fancy suits pretending to be cool. I'm surprised that they've lasted this long without killing each other, although it's probably due to Mr. House and his Securitrons. We have our work cut out for us here. I wish my term here was more fruitful than it was, but I'm glad to be returning to the NCR. Philip Granger. So obviously we can get some insights into what is going on at the NCR as far as politics are concerned. There's also a locked terminal. However, there's not much on the terminal besides just some average normal things like with fiends that the player is probably already aware of. And then we can find another report from a previous ambassador. So it reads, Final report, Ambassador Susanna Edith. The past 2 years serving as the NCR ambassador to the Strip have been trying at best and downright horrid at worst. Living here in New Vegas has been horrible. The accommodations here are barely serviceable, which is a deliberate and malicious act by Mr. House to hinder the NCR's efforts here in New Vegas. On top, if that, I have constantly surrounded by drunken idiots who gamble away their money. My work here has been fruitless. I've been unable to get anywhere with Mr. House, or actually meet Mr. House, since all I have dealt with are Securitrons that only serve to frustrate me further. Still, after all this time, we have been unable to find common understanding between Mr. House and the NCR's goals for the area. I look forward to returning home to the NCR, and I wish my successor luck. You're going to need it, Susanna Edith. Obviously, in these reports, we can see that the NCR is really struggling with making any headway with Mr. House. Mr. House is not being very cooperative. Now, if you talk to Mr. House, he'll give a different story and suggest that the NCR wants to steal his place on the strip and take away power from him. Now, in the barracks, we can find strip letter 11, which reads, Private Irwin. If I hear of you pulling another prank on one of my troops that causes them to return to duty without their clothing fully intact, I will personally make sure you get transferred to Camp Forlorn Hope and don't come back. I'll be watching you, Lieutenant Asheville. And for those of you who don't know, these strip letters are littered all around New Vegas, and they just offer different interesting insights to different characters around New Vegas. However, none of the characters are connected or related. In this room, we had a sunset sarsaparilla lamp, along with a bed that we can sleep in, which I thought was very interesting. And in the cafeteria, we can find strip letter 9, which reads, Private Humphreys. This has been the best 3-day pass yet. I learned my lesson early and ditched the casinos for the girls at the Gomorrah. Now that is money well spent. You can't get that kind of service at Camp Golf. Going to sleep now while it's daylight and head back to the Gomorrah tonight for one last hoorah. Private Watkins. But besides that, there isn't a whole lot in the embassy. Now, normally, Ambassador Crocker is in here, who's the ambassador from the NCR to New Vegas. However, once you've decided to side with Mr. House, Yes Man, or the Legion, Ambassador Crocker will disappear, and we are unable to talk to him. So the ambassador reports that are found within the embassy offer some interesting insight on why the NCR is failing around New Vegas. They cannot negotiate with Mr. House, and they lack proper resources to do anything effectively. Some things to consider when you choose your faction in Fallout New Vegas. Meanwhile, the strip letters, which we can find here, offer some interesting insights to the lives of normal, everyday NCR soldiers. All of these letters really make the world feel a lot more lived in, and it makes the world feel a lot more real. Which is one of the many reasons that Fallout New Vegas is such an amazing game. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any recommendations for the next location, please post them in the comments section below. And as always, until next time. Hello everybody, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be checking out Cliffside, Prospector Camp, and some of the surrounding area. This video is recommended to me by Little Dre, and along with some recommendations about the local area. So thank you very much for the recommendation. Now this is an area I was pretty surprised I had not covered in a previous video, because this is an area I went to very early on when I started making this series, mainly because this location is directly west of Deathclaw Promontory, one of my early videos that helped jumpstart this series. So let's jump into Cliffside Prospector Camp. So as you can see here on the mini-map, it's located just east of Lucky Jim Mine, right on the banks of the Colorado River. Now you have to be careful around here because there's going to be a ton of fire geckos. If you're in the late game, then it probably won't be too big of an issue, but if you're a new player, it might be a bit more challenging. However, if you can take them on, you can actually get a very decent amount of XP by killing them. From the Cliffside Prospector Camp, the fire geckos actually cannot reach you, making them easy targets to kill and to get some XP. Now, actually approaching the camp, there is not a whole lot here. We have a campfire and a chair and some metal boxes, along with a Sunset Sarsaparilla star bottle cap, which is important because you need 50 of them to complete the Sunset Sarsaparilla quest. But besides that, there's really not a whole lot here. We have a ham radio and a normal radio, and just some very beautiful views of the Colorado River. And we also have some pretty good views of this little plateau here and all of the fire geckos that inhabit it. Again, you can kill them pretty easily since they cannot reach you. Now, I don't really ever remember this plateau, but it is directly west of Deathclaw Promontory, making it a good location to fast travel to if you want to try to take on Deathclaw Promontory. As you can see here, it's pretty much just an empty plateau that is filled with a bunch of fire geckos, but a very kind of nice, open, beautiful area of the game. Now, rather unfortunately, the camp here is not really suitable for player housing as it does not possess a bed. But other than that, this area would be really cool, and if you have a bedroll from the Lonesome Road DLC, I think you could make do. And over here we have a little cave, but there's nothing in the cave. However, I've noticed that these little small caves are littered around New Vegas, and they seem to just be in locations where there's a lot of enemies. And then here on the edge of the cliff, we can get some really beautiful views of Cottonwood Cove. And I have to agree with Little Dre, these are probably the best views of Cottonwood Cove and the Colorado in Fallout New Vegas. Alright guys, as always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Unexplored Mojave. If you have any recommendations for the next video, please post them in the comments section below. And, as always, until next time.
We're independent folks here. Merchants, gamblers, NCR whores. All of them trade with us, and we offer protection against critters and the fiends. You heard me. We don't like those stiff-backed, clean-hand little pussies. New Vegas belongs to the people. The NCR is just a corrupt and bloated monster no better than any other wasteland crawler. We make this land wealthy, and we ain't giving it up. They're a bunch of lunatics so pumped full of chems they don't give a damn about life anymore. Fiends rape, kill, and maim for the hell of it. Vault 3's Fiend territory. Those shitheads attack Westside all the time, even making it to the rest of Outer Vegas when they crawl under the sewers.
We've been here for a few years, just looking for a place we can call our own. Life's harsh, but still, it beats the hell out of the desert. We've got numbers, we've got food, and we've got trade. That's progress, stranger. Keep your nose to the ground, stranger, that's what. Mind your own business and let us mind our own. Are we clear? If you got a mind to loot the old H&H Tools factory, don't even bother. That place is sealed tighter than a rad scorpion's bunghole. Every salvager who tries gets blown up, flattened, or gutted by traps. Then he starts to stink up the town, and we're the ones to clean up the mess.
Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be checking out the North Vegas Square, which was recommended to me by Wesley Gassett. Thank you so much for all of the recommendations. So I'll be pretty honest, this is a location that I am not so familiar with, even though it's located in the downtown area of New Vegas, right next to Freeside. This area is very easily missed, mainly because it's extremely poor. And there's not a whole lot to do here besides a handful of quests, which we will take a look at in this video. Now, many locations in New Vegas are based on real-world locations. However, I could not find any such information on the North Vegas Square, so I just imagine it's based on some neighborhood from northern Las Vegas. So, let's jump into it. And as you can see here on the mini-map, here's the location of North Vegas Square. It's next to the H&H Tools factory and right next to Freeside, the Freeside North Gate. You can actually see Freeside right there. And then over here, you can see the entrance to North Vegas. Now, North Vegas is a settlement, but it's more of a refugee camp full of people who are down on their luck. Now, there is no official government within North Vegas. However, Crandon acts as the leader of the settlement, and Jules works with him kind of as a sheriff, and together they help maintain order in North Vegas. Now, in North Vegas, you'll notice a lot of bombed out, destroyed buildings. Interestingly, these bed sheets are actually owned by somebody, so some residents. And there's also a playground here, and we have some interesting things in the playground, but because we can see that people have used, like, junk to make, like, miniature shelters, probably for temporary sleeping purposes. As we can see here, this swing set appears to kind of be a makeshift shelter. So pretty interesting, and it showcases the poverty within North Vegas. Maybe somebody's living in this UFO, I don't know. We also have a flipped over baby carriage, which is kind of interesting. And then over here we can find Jules, who has an unmarked quest, meeting an equal associated with him, but we need 50 gun skill and 60 survival in order to finish the quest.
Because that's the law of the land. You never know when someone's going to stab you in the back, and I like mine upright. Maybe one day, stranger, when you've seen all I've seen, done all I've done, you'll sooner trust a rad scorpion than a new face in the wasteland. You got a sharp eye on you. I take it you like guns, huh? Question is, can you handle more than just a weapon? I mean, you've got to know yourself before you can truly know the gun. So let's see it, stranger. Do you know yourself? We see eye to eye, we speak warrior to warrior. And I thought myself too old to find an equal. Listen, warrior, there are two kinds of folks. You load your gun like an ordinary man, or you load it like a devil. We ain't ordinary, are we? See, I pack good brass up with slow-burning powder, then cap it with a heavy semi-wide cutter bullet. That's how you make 44 ammo that'll put the fear of the heavens on any waster that dare cross your path. That's a long one, stranger. Let's just say I got tired of killing in the wasteland, and now I found a better home for my old butt.
So after finishing those speech checks, you'll finish the unmarked quest, and he will give you a 44 Magnum SWC schematic to make reloading faster. Then on the other entrance of North Vegas, it's actually unmarked, but it's right next to H&H Tools. Now there is one building we can enter, which is called the Gray. This is a deteriorating apartment building with several residents inside of it. There's also some thugs who are associated with the quest, someone to watch over me. And we'll talk about this quest a little bit later, since it's the main reason to visit North Vegas. Now, there's a locked door, and this is actually a part of the quest. You're supposed to do this later during the quest, but I decided to go ahead and do it now and see what happens. So this room belongs to Andy Scab. And Andy is a gang leader who lives in North Vegas, and basically he's planning a big heist. And we can find this note, henchman message to Andy Scab, which reads, "Looks like you were right. The Hostettler man always carries a full pouch back to their house every night. The same pouch is empty whenever he goes work to Crimson Caravan. Fred's seen it himself. No chance in hell this is all a coincidence. He's bringing something with him whenever he leaves work. That's gotta be his daily cut from the business. Alice is gonna have to find all that dough for us. If we get caught near their place, her bitch mother is gonna snap for the big guns. That'll make Crandon, or worse, Jules, come after us. I ain't too happy about risking my neck for nothing, Andy. Let's make sure Alice is a good doggy first. Then do whatever you want with her once we are out of this fucking hole. M." So we've actually visited the Hostettler home before. It's right next to Isaac's house in the Unexplored Mojave. And the Hostettler house features the mother, who is very angry towards the player character, or at least until we start this quest. House, we can find Mrs. Hostettler, who has some very aggressive dialogue.
I blow your head off. Snoop somewhere else and get the fuck out of my house. Are you deaf? I don't give a damn about what you want.
Now, in order to officially start the quest, someone to watch over me, you have to talk to Crandon and tell him that you want to help out, and you have to convince him that you're able to help out around town, either with 45 speech or 35 barter. He will then tell you that there's some squatters on the playground that he wants you to get rid of. Now, of course, there's a few ways you can do this. However, killing the squatters will result in reputation loss. So that probably isn't the best course of action. The other courses of action involve speech or barter. And because of North Vegas's kind of hidden location, kind of tucked away in the corner of New Vegas, this quest is actually somewhat easy to miss. So going over to the squatters, we can find Squatter Bill, and you can simply just convince him to leave, as I will do. If you don't have a high enough speech or barter, you could kill the squatters but again, that'll result in reputation loss. So that's not such a good thing unless you don't care, you're doing an evil or like Caesar's Legion playthrough. So after dealing with the squatters, you want to go back to Crandon, and this time he'll tell you that he wants you to deal with some criminals down in the North Vegas sewers. So there's actually a third entrance to the North Vegas Square. There are the sewer system, which I've covered before in a previous Unexplored Mojave episode. Basically, we have to go down there and also convince them to leave or kill them. Now, choosing to kill them here is a more viable option simply because there's no reputation loss for killing criminals. However, people in the sewers could become hostile to you, so it's still advised to try and use diplomacy. Here we can find Greasy Johnny, and with a speech check of 65, we can convince him and his gang of criminals to leave the sewers. After completing this task, we'll get the main task of the quest, dealing with the Hostetler family and Andy Scab. So for this quest, basically, Alice Hostetler is the daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Hostetler. She's a naive young woman who ran away from home because she wants to make her own living. She's tired of living on the Hostetler farm or the Hostetler house, and she wants something more for herself, but she gets caught up in a criminal gang. So after talking to Crandon, we have to go to Mrs. Hostetler, who will calm down once you let her know that you are aware of her problem. And then after that, she will give you some information about Andy Scab, and you have to go back to North Vegas, and you have to talk to Jules, who will tell you that Andy lives inside the Gray. Now, upon entering, the quest got a little bit glitchy because I've already completed the task of breaking into his room and stealing the note. So I had several tasks complete, and then Andy came running in to talk to me. This conversation with Andy can go several ways. One, of course, is showing Alice Andy's plan. 2 is to attack and kill Andy, and 3 is actually to join Andy. So we have to head over back to the Hostetler farm once we made our decision and confront Alice.
Back off. I know how to use this gun, and I'm not afraid to shoot if you try anything. I've put up with their shit long enough. No more. I'll kill them if they get in my way. Then what the hell do you want? Don't try anything, I mean it. Okay, but this better not be a trick. What are you talking about? Andy wants to help me leave this hole, doesn't he? That son of a bitch! I'll take the money and I'll kill him too. I don't know what I want, but I hate this place and I hate these people. It all used to be so simple. Why did they change? Why can't they see my pain? Do they? Look at my mother. All she cares for is a patch of bare dirt where nothing green will ever grow to feed us. My father, a trading business that he'll never own, risking his neck every day against wastelanders and cutthroat merchants. And I'm supposed to be part of those dreams? What about my dreams, stranger? What about me? It's all me, isn't it? The pain, the anger, my joy. All of that's just me. I should have met you before, stranger. Thank you.
Now, you have to be careful during that dialogue because what you say can have an impact on the quest. Obviously, I went for the more positive ending. Alice runs away from home in search of a better life, but she decides not to do a terrible thing to her family. Now, you can also turn her hostile to you, or she might commit suicide if the right dialogue options are chosen, resulting in negative karma. After finishing that part of the quest, we can talk to Mrs. Hostetler, who will initially be angry at you, but will eventually come to understand that her daughter just wants something else in her life. And she will even give you caps as a reward, but you can refuse the caps for a very large positive karma gain. But this was a very interesting quest that I knew next to nothing about before going to this location, so I'm very glad I visited here, and I'm very glad that I did this quest, seeing a new story unfold within the Mojave Wasteland. Alright everyone, as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Unexplored Mojave. If you have any recommendations for the next location, please post them in the comment section below. And, as always, until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be checking out Black Rock Cave, which was recommended to me by Little Dre. Thank you so much for all of the support and all the recommendations, Little Dre. Now this is a location I honestly had no clue about. It is just northwest of Helios 1, and it is underneath Black Mountain, which makes sense for its name, Black Rock Cave. So let's go ahead and check out this area. Now, as you approach this cave, you might encounter some scorpions, some rad scorpions, so definitely make sure to come with some ammunition, and also the cave is filled with nightkin, which can be very difficult at lower levels. Now, this part of the map, I feel like I hardly ever visit, the area just west of Helios 1, and I found the terrain to be quite unique. Now, Black Rock Cave does appear very black on the inside, and you can see Helios 1 in the background. And of course, here is the mini-map view with Helios 1, and it's just northwest of Helios 1. Upon entering the cave, we'll be greeted by a nightkin. There are 3 nightkin in total that I encountered while in the cave. However, I was not prepared for the last one, and it actually scared me a little bit, which you'll see here momentarily. Now, there is a Nightkin Master in here, which can be very difficult if you're a low level. As you can see here, he did take a lot of shots, but I was ultimately able to kill him pretty easily. And then he had a heavy incinerator on him, which could deal a lot of damage. And as you make your way to the back end of the cave, you will find a dead Prospector. And there is where I got scared a little bit by the Nightkin. I was not ready for him to shoot me the way he did, but ultimately able to kill him and then able to loot the Prospector. Now on the Prospector we can find the unique weapon, Paladin Toaster, which is a unique variant of the standard Zap Glove. As you can see, I'm equipping it here, and it does bonus damage to robots, but besides that, it doesn't have many other benefits, as it is a lower-end melee weapon in Fallout New Vegas. And quickly, I want to point out, outside, we have a hollowed-out rock, which only had a wrench in it for me, but maybe you'll have better luck. So that's Black Rock Cave, and something I wanted to quickly mention is if you look at the Zap Glove, or the Paladin Toaster, there is a small energy cell attached to the back of it. Now, according to Joshua Sawyer, one of the developers on New Vegas, the Zap Glove and the Paladin Toaster were originally going to consume ammo, small energy cells, but due to complications with implementing this idea on melee weapons, it was ultimately scrapped from the final product. But I think it's a pretty cool idea and would add another element of challenge to Fallout New Vegas. Alright everyone, thank you so much for watching this episode of the Unexplored Mojave. If you have any recommendations for the next video, please drop them in the comments section below. And, as always, until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be looking at Hidden Supply Cave, which was recommended to me by Little Dre. Now, this location is really close to my first video of this series, which was Coyote Den. That was so long ago, and it's truly so hard to believe how far this series has come. So thank you all so much for all the support, especially all of those people that have been there since the beginning. Now, this location is actually quite beautiful. However, there is really not a whole lot here, so I just wanted to highlight the natural beauty of the surrounding area. You can get some absolutely incredible views of the southwestern Mojave, and here you can see the Mojave Outpost and the statues way off in the distance as we watch the setting sun of the Mojave. So Hidden Supply Cave is only accessible if you have 50 lockpick because it's an average lock. If you don't have 50 lockpick, you'll have to wait until you get that. Now this location is featured in the quest Wheel of Fortune, which is given to you by Logan in Camp Searchlight. Basically, you have to get radiation suits from this cave in order to give to Logan and his men so they can raid the fire station in Camp Searchlight. Now here you can see the location on the minimap just northeast of Nipton, right next to Coyote Den. Now this location is pretty remote and it's up in the mountains, a bit difficult to get to. Here we can see a hollowed out rock that will contain random loot. So always something cool you can open up, see what you get. Inside the cave, it's a very small cave with a whole bunch of supply crates. However, we can only open the foot lockers, unfortunately, along with a first aid box, or a medical kit as I was gonna say. But there's nothing in these foot lockers as I've already looted them. Now normally on your first time here you can find a copy of Grognak the Barbarian on top of a radiation suit. So not terrible loot and pretty good for a beginning player, especially if you're just starting off the game and you just ventured into Nipton. And one last note, all of the supply crates in here are safe to store your loot, so this can be used as player housing. However, it's a little bit undesirable since there's no workbench and there's no bed for you to sleep in. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any recommendations for the next video, please post them in the comment section below. And, as always, until next time. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be looking at Camp McCarran, which is the primary military base for the NCR, the New California Republic. Now, Camp McCarran is the location of McCarran Airport in the pre-war era. And like many other locations in Fallout New Vegas, Camp McCarran or McCarran Airport is based on the real-life McCarran Airport. However, today the name was changed to Harry Reid International Airport. So some quick history about the airport, both in real life and in Fallout. The original name for the airport was Alamo Field, and it just simply served as a runway for flight instructors. It was built by George Crockett, who was a descendant of Davy Crockett, who fought at the Battle of the Alamo, which is why he named it Alamo Field. And it was just a very basic field with 3 gravel runways, and it shared the location with the Army Air Forces, the predecessor to the U.S. Air Force, during World War II, following the attack on Pearl Harbor. But after World War II, the military base was actually closed, and it was just, again, a flight instructor school. However, Las Vegas wanted to open up an airport to bring in more tourism, and the U.S. Senator Pat McCarran was able to secure taxpayer funds in order to build the airport, which is why he got his namesake on the airport. So let's jump into Camp McCarran. So obviously Camp McCarran is at the center of New Vegas, or Las Vegas. It sits right here on the New Vegas Strip, right outside the walls of the New Vegas city, and there's the famous Las Vegas sign, or now New Vegas sign, where the beginning of the game starts, right, with the Rangers shooting the Fiends. Now, along the outer parts of the camp, we can see a wall. We can see 2 walls, a brick wall and eventually a concrete wall. It's hard to tell when this concrete wall was built, and there's a lot of graffiti on it from the Fiends, but it appears that this wall was either built by the U.S. military during the Great War with China, or it was built by the NCR themselves. However, based on the state of the wall, it would be safe to assume it was probably pre-war, but it could be NCR. Unfortunately, we have no confirmation of this in-game. But, as we can see here, the runway actually sits outside of the wall, so the function of an airport would be impossible at this point, because planes would not be able to get to the terminal. Now, obviously in the world of Fallout, the timeline splits following World War II, so perhaps the US military had a lot more control over McCarran Airport. However, you could also argue that the NCR built the wall. It's made out of cement, and the NCR does produce cement at Boulder City. And we can see NCR troops on the wall, and also we can see the monorail, which leads straight from the airport into New Vegas, which is part of the reason the NCR love this location. On the northern part of the city, we can find part of the wall, which is in serious disrepair. Inside Camp McCarran, there are a lot of tents, and there's a lot of stuff that you could easily miss here. There's a lot of side quests and unmarked quests given to you by some of the soldiers, and there's also a lot of ammunition boxes and even a shooting range that I've never seen in use, actually. It's just here for decoration and to give the feeling that this is an actual military base. We can find several tents with just soldiers' goods and beds on the ground. Not the best living conditions, but, it's definitely safe. We can also find the mess hall, along with a tent featuring medical equipment, so obviously for injured soldiers coming back from war. Now, in front of the airport, we can find the old drop-off and pickup area, where obviously passengers would have been dropped off before they're sent away. Camp McCarran has a lot of interesting assets that were built specifically for this location, but I feel like this location is not featured so much, and that a lot of it was probably cut from the final game, which is quite unfortunate. In the bottom area, we can find stacks of TVs, which would have probably displayed flight information in the pre-war era, and then Veronica wanted to talk to me. We can also see a fighter jet hanging in the front lobby, along with several slot machines that are not working. We can also see advertisements for various stage acts in Las Vegas, along with more TVs. Now, the main area I wanted to explore was the concourse, because this is an area you never have to visit. We can actually find some unmarked quests here, along with another mess hall for the NCR soldiers. When I talked to the manager of the mess hall, I got some very unique dialogue. So, let's listen in.
Listen, asshole, I know you're not really an NCR health inspector, so you can cut the restaurant critique routine. And I want my 50 caps back, because I looked it up and there ain't no disease called colorectal implosion syndrome. So I paid you to look the other way for nothing. Wait, you're not... Oh, wow, I'm sorry. You look just like... Never mind, sorry. So what can I serve you up? That's nothing. You just look like the health inspector who stopped through for the yearly inspection a couple of weeks back. I was hoping I wouldn't have to wait another 11 months to see his crooked ass to get my caps back. Ah, well. Anything I can get you?
And then if you've been to Vault 22, we can give him a pod sample to enhance his food.
No shit. The stuff actually does all that, huh? I'll have to start testing this out immediately. This will really help keep the guys focused.
Now, I don't know if that's a good idea or not. Perhaps I just turned all of the NCR troops here into spores. But, who knows? We can go further down the concourse where we can find where the planes used to be, along with some NCR propaganda. And here we can find the supply shack, which I had no clue existed before this video. And in here we can actually find a vendor, and he will sell you supplies, even though he wasn't happy with my reputation. And as we can see here, he actually has some decent ammunition. While not a lot of variety, he had a ton of .308 round, which was really good for me. So definitely worth a visit if you're using .308 rounds. And then outside on the tarmac, there are several planes, which I assume are passenger planes. However, I guess they could also be bombers. They have a real 1950s passenger plane aesthetic to them, though, which does match the Fallout aesthetic. I also found it really interesting how the wings fold up. I've never seen an airplane like that. Unfortunately, we can't get into the back of these trucks, so there's no loot, there's an invisible barrier. Also, if you try to get on top of the airport, which it looks like you might be able to, there's an invisible barrier. Inside the control tower, this is prominent during the quest, I put a spell on you. Now, unfortunately, there's not a whole lot in there, but there is the dead body of Curtis if you've completed the quest for the NCR. Back outside, we can find various guard towers along with a shooting range, and interestingly, in the guard tower, there's ammunition boxes, and we can take the ammunition, and it's not considered stealing. There's also a series of fighter jets on the outside part over here. Now, I found it interesting the NCR doesn't try to repurpose those jets or these planes. It seems to me they would be very useful. but it might be difficult to get something that's like 200 years running again. And then over here we can find a sort of obstacle course, and we can actually run the entire course. And I found this very interesting because when I was researching it, I found out there were 2 NCR troops and a drill sergeant that would run the course when the game was first released. But these NPCs were later removed in an update. So if you play the original version of the game, there should be NCR troops here. But if you have an update, like I do, there are no troops. So very interesting that they pulled that from the final game. Perhaps it was just too glitchy, who knows. And I also wanted to mention, earlier I mentioned that today this airport is called Harry Reid International Airport, changed from McCarran International Airport. I wanted to go over why that is. So the original namesake, Pat McCarran, was a US Senator during World War II, and he held some anti-Semitic, racist views, and he was a huge opponent of Franklin Delano Roosevelt in his approach to the war. Of course, today, FDR is viewed as, pretty good president, especially during the war. So Pat McCarran has really fallen out of favor, and a later senator, Harry Reid, who was the Senate Majority Leader for many years, replaced his name when he was diagnosed with cancer. So in our world, the name was changed, but obviously in the world of Fallout, things are different. And Fallout New Vegas was released before the name was changed to Harry Reid. Also, another fun fact is Harry Reid is from the small town of Searchlight, Nevada. And this rather unknown town is actually a very major location in Fallout New Vegas. Camp Searchlight, which is held by the NCR, or I should say, was held by the NCR. Alright guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any recommendations for the next video, please post them in the comment section below. And, as always, until next time. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Jumping straight into the action on this one, having to fight Cazadors, one of my favorite enemies in Fallout New Vegas. Extremely annoying. As always guys, welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be looking at the Makeshift Great Khan Camp, which is directly north of Good Spring Cemetery. Now obviously this is a location that a player could attempt to visit in the early game, but you might have some difficulty doing. Now unfortunately there is not a whole lot here, so let's go ahead and jump into this location. So as you can see here on the Pip-Boy, it's just north of Good Spring Cemetery. Now I'll be honest, I didn't know of this location really. I had never really been here, and I just found it while I was making a video for another location, and I just stumbled upon all of these Cazadors, so I decided to check it out. Now there are quite a few Cazadors here, so having some kind of good weapon, like an anti-material rifle, or especially flame weapons are really good against them, and targeting their wings can be very effective in killing them. But using the anti-material rifle, I found it pretty easy to take them all out from range, as they were unable to get me from this cliff. Now this cliff is just by the Great Khan Encampment in the Quarry Junction, so this could be a little bit difficult to get to in a new playthrough because you'd have to fight Deathclaws. Now the camp itself is not much. We just have a campfire and a sleeping bag, and then we have some empty whiskey bottles and stuff. So not a whole lot here, and there's also a carved out rock that has some minor loot in it. This Cazador was dancing from beyond the grave. Also, I found it interesting, these Cazadors for some reason did not give me the A button to search. And here's the hollowed out rock, as I mentioned before, which will contain random loot. For me, it had some shotgun ammo. But not a whole lot here, besides a campfire, where you can obviously craft at. Now, up on the cliffside, we have various war totems, which are kind of scary when you look at them in depth. But they just appear to be animal bones attached to make them look like a person, maybe some tree branches. But pretty cool. Now, upon further research, I learned that this location is actually in the same exact location as a place called Wild Horse Cabin, which is on the eastern side of Mount Potosi in Nevada. And actually, at Wild Horse Cabin, you can do various activities like horseback riding, having a campfire, and archery. So pretty cool things that you can do around this location in real life. exploring the Mojave Desert for yourself. Alright guys, as always, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any recommendations for the next location, please post them in the comment section below. And as always, until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be checking out the Great Khan Encampment, which is near Quarry Junction. Now I did mention this location previously in my Quarry Junction video, however I didn't explore that in depth, and there's a little bit more to it in the surrounding area. Now this location was, well, kind of recommended to me by Little Dre, and I have to admit I made a bit of a mistake. When I first read this comment as Makeshift Great Khan Camp, I thought Little Dre meant the Great Khan Encampment. However, the Makeshift Great Khan Camp is another location separately, which I covered in the previous episode of the Unexplored Mojave. So I made a bit of a mistake. I apologize to Little Dre. Little Dre really recommended the Makeshift Great Khan Camp, and credit for this location too, because it sent me to this location. I apologize for misreading the comment. So let's dive in to the Great Khan Encampment. So as you can see here, the location is just west of Quarry Junction and to the northeast of Good Springs. The Great Khan Makeshift Camp is just to the west of the plateau in which I'm standing. Now when I first approached this location, I was not prepared for all of the Deathclaws that sit on this plateau. Of course, Quarry Junction is known for its Deathclaws, but there are about half a dozen Deathclaws sitting on this plateau opposite of the Great Khan Encampment. So as you can see here, I was fighting off the Deathclaws. They almost got me, but I got very lucky here with the kind of glitch, as these Deathclaws pushed me up this mountain slope, and then I was able to kill them from a safe area. So kind of a funny little glitch that would obviously be very difficult to replicate, so I'm glad I captured it on camera. From here I was able to easily take out the remaining Deathclaws within Quarry Junction that had probably respawned since the last time I was here. Now, on the other side of the ridge from the Great Khan Encampment, we have a plateau, which I would promptly name Deathclaw Plateau. There are several Deathclaws over here, but using the anti-material rifle, I was able to easily take them all out from range without posing any real danger to myself. Now, if you came here, obviously, early game, well, you would probably die. I don't know how you would clear this area without a lot of using just kind of glitches and trying to glitch the pathing of the Deathclaws. After struggling so much against the Deathclaws in my old Oni video, it was quite satisfying to take out all of the Deathclaws from distance, and easily. Here, Veronica almost killed herself by jumping in front of me as I shot my gun, but thankfully I held back on the trigger. Now this plateau is pretty cool once you've cleared out all the Deathclaws. You get some really beautiful views of the New Vegas and the Mojave Wasteland. And real quick, a little bit of information about the Great Khan Encampment. Obviously, it's being used as a temporary base by Melissa and two other unnamed Great Khans. Melissa is very important for the quest, Oh My Papa, which is essential to gaining the trust of the Great Khans. And her side quest is Don't Make a Beggar of Me, in which you have to investigate a drug deal gone wrong. Alright everyone, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Unexplored Mojave, and again, my apologies to Little Dre for failing to credit him in my past video. If you have any recommendations for the next location, please post them in the comment section below, and I'll make sure to do better research. As always, until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be checking out Techatticup Mine. This is a location that I'm very surprised I've never explored or gone through in a playthrough, because it's a pretty cool quest and a pretty cool location. This is recommended to me by Little Dre. Also, Andrea Carlo had some interesting commentary. This was a very creative suggestion by Little Dre, who told me to find Private Reynolds southeast of Nelson. Now, when I saw this comment, I really didn't know what he meant, So I just followed his instructions, and what ensued was a pretty epic quest and location. So thank you so much for the recommendation, and let's check out Techatticup Mine. So as Little Dre said, this location is about southeast of Nelson, also southeast of Novak. As you approach the location, you will find a man named Private Reynolds who asks for the player's help.
You're the courier I've heard so much about. My squad needs your assistance. My squad was ambushed by a Legion party led by that bastard Alexis. He was taking us into the mine up ahead, but I managed to get away. I need help to get them out. That's already more than I was expecting. I'll keep watch to make sure no more Legion come up the road. Good luck.
And after talking to him, this will start the quest, Anywhere I Wander. Here we can see the location of Techatticup Mine along with Private Reynolds. Private Reynolds is just west of Techatticup Mine. Now you do need to be really careful because Private Reynolds can get attacked by Legion, and if he dies, you'll actually fail the quest. Here we can see a legendary assassin approaching from behind, so I made sure to kill him, that way I don't fail the quest. A lot of new players struggle because the quest will keep on failing because they can't kill the Legion. After using the anti-material rifle on the Legion, one of them completely exploded in chaotic fashion, and I found that to be quite hilarious. But just getting kind of close to the mine, we will discover Techatticup Mine. Upon entering the mine, we'll notice that its lighting is a lot different than other caverns within Fallout New Vegas. Has kind of an orange glow because of all of the Legion fires inside of it, which I thought was really cool as far as aesthetic purposes. Now you'll be greeted by a Legion mongrel and a Legion recruit. Killing them is pretty easy, especially if you're a higher level, and I do think this would be a good place to come early game. That way you can get some ammunition, get some loot, and also get some armor. Now, of course, if you're doing a pro Legion playthrough, maybe not the best, but obviously your reputation will reset once you get to the New Vegas Strip. If we go right from the entrance, we'll find a little ramp which actually goes up and not down, and at the top we'll find several recruit legendaries, and taking them out was pretty easy with the help of Veronica. Now this room is pretty cool. It's like another little mine shaft within, and I wanted to take this time to discuss the real life Techatticup Mine. So like many locations in Fallout New Vegas, Techatticup Mine is a real place in real life, and it's actually a place that you can visit. It is now a tourist attraction in Clark County, Nevada, located within the El Dorado Canyon. So all of this is very accurate, geographically speaking. The Techatticup Mine was the largest and most productive mine in the Colorado Mining District, which was the name of this area before it was handed over to the territory of Nevada. So it's a very historic place, and today it is cleaned up, illuminated, and you can take tours inside the mine, and a lot of the mining equipment is well over 100 years old and is original. So a really cool place that would be amazing to visit. And let's continue with New Vegas. So in this upper part of the mine, we're going to find two locked gates. And upon opening these locked gates, we can find the captured NCR soldiers, and we can untie them for the quest. However, they don't really have anything to say to the player. They'll just run off into the mine. So you want to definitely rescue both of them to complete the quest. Obviously, if you're trying to do a Legion playthrough, you could choose to do whatever you want to them, I guess. Now, after rescuing the two NCR soldiers, you could actually elect to just leave the mine as you have pretty much finished the quest. However, the entire mine has not been explored yet. If we go left from the entrance, we can find a path that leads us further down into the ground, along with two locked gates. However, there's no people within these locked gates, no NCR, just some loot and supplies. As you can see there were some super stim packs, which is pretty decent loot. Now, as we get into the very bottom area, there's going to be a lot of legionaries, and we can also see that in this mine there's a lot of radioactive waste. So it would appear that in the old world, this mine got turned into a nuclear waste dumping ground rather than a tourist destination. And as you near the bottom, you'll find the second locked gate, and inside this locked gate we can find some ammunition. These sacks are worthwhile, and there's also some ammunition boxes. And there's also some grenades, but for whatever reason they decided to disappear for a little bit and then reappear again. At the very bottom of the cave we can find a lot of nuclear waste, and a couple of legionaries hanging out in the back that are pretty easy to take out, but, I just decided to miss my shot, so that way Veronica could have some fun herself. But there's nothing much in this room besides being a really beautiful looking room with a really cool aesthetic. And there's also some light shining in through this crack, which I thought was really cool. And this is something that is pretty commonplace within Fallout New Vegas. So I was really happy that Little Dre recommended this location because I had a lot of fun researching the history of this place, Techatticup Mine, in real life. And while researching, I came to a realization that in the Fallout universe, the pre-war government did not put any emphasis on the preservation of nature. And within our world, there is a lot of emphasis on preserving history and nature. So it's just something to be grateful for, because obviously in Fallout, with the resource wars and the emphasis on nuclear energy, they just started throwing nuclear waste everywhere. But it's part of the fun and part of the humor that is Fallout. So after we rescue those 2 NCR soldiers, we can go back to Private Reynolds and talk to him, and then we can complete the quest for a small amount of XP and no other real rewards besides just having a good feeling. Now, this quest did level me up, so, that's pretty good for 110 XP. Now, the surrounding area actually has some pretty interesting things in it. So as I was walking around, I noticed there's like a scenic area, it would appear, where people could pull their car over to see the Colorado River. And at the bottom, I noticed this Legion camp. And I was quite surprised, but I decided to take out my explosive rounds in my anti-material rifle, shoot myself once, and then kill the legionaries. And one of the Legion bodies just went absolutely flying to the moon, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. Now, within this Legion camp, there were several recruit legionaries. However, they didn't have a lot of loot on them besides some ammo or caps or money. Now, I really tried to find out what the name of this place was, but I couldn't find anything on the internet. And I really searched, so as far as I'm concerned, it's just an unmarked Legion camp that is south of Techatticup Mine. And then I decided to go ahead and head north and northeast of Techatticup Mine. And I found this little canyon or corridor within the rocks, and I was actually surprised how well maintained it all seemed by the developers. It's pretty easy to transverse, and it's definitely an area that I've never visited or had any recollection of, maybe like an old hiking trail within the pre-war era. And then I found yet another Legion camp that I could find nothing about, along with this little flat plateau area. Now, within the Legion camp, though, there was really nothing here, and this Legion camp is directly east of Nelson, and one might even say it's connected to Nelson. There were also 3 graves right next to it. And there you have it, Techatticup Mine and the surrounding area. Now, some interesting information real quick. The quest, Anywhere I Wonder, is actually a reference to a 1951 song of the same name, written by Frank Lozer and recorded by Julius La Rosa. And really quick, I wanted to mention that there's actually a hollowed out rock right outside the entrance of Techatticup Mine, so make sure to check it out, see what kind of loot you can find within it. And finally, I wanted to mention that if you don't have 50 lockpick, you can still complete the quest. Now, within Techatticup Mine, there is a legionary named Alexis, and on his dead body will be the key to unlock the gates to rescue the NCR soldiers. And I had a lot of fun exploring this location, and it's a place I would highly recommend to go check out if you haven't already. It's kind of a fun place and a fun quest to do. Alright everyone, as always, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Unexplored Mojave. If you have any recommendations for the next location, please post them in the comment section below. And, as always, until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be checking out the Toxic Dump Site. This is a location just east of Novak. It's a pretty small location, and occasionally we'll find a Wastelander here. And while I was recording this scenic shot, I caught something very odd on camera. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we have evidence of paranormal activity. This Wastelander does not appear to be human. He appears to be a ghost. I don't know if you could see it earlier, but hopefully in the zoomed up shot, you can see it. This was really odd, as the Wastelander just phased into the crate for no real apparent reason. Now, this Wastelander is usually found by the Toxic Dump Site, or along the road next to it. As you can see here, he's walking over here by the road. However, he's a bit rude. He says just mind your own business, and for us to leave this area. And there's nothing really here, so I don't know why he's hanging out or why he got stuck in the wall. Now, he only has 1 HP, so you can kill him with pretty much anything. As we can see here, my flashbang killed him rather easily. And as we approached his dead body, we could see that he did escape from the wall. So in the end, we did a good deed, and we helped out our good friend. Now, upon coming back a few days later, I found that the Wastelander will actually respawn. Here he is, just further south of the Toxic Dump Site. So a pretty interesting glitch that happened, and it might be hard to replicate. Now here you can see the location of the Toxic Dump Site. I originally intended this video to be tied in with the location next to here, Clark Field. However, I decided to just go ahead and make it its own video because I thought this was a very unique and funny interaction with this Wastelander, and I had no clue this Wastelander was here before this glitch. Now, besides that, there's really nothing here at this location. There's no explanation as to why it's irradiated. We can just assume that in the pre-war era, it was used as a dump for nuclear waste. Alright, as always guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Unexplored Mojave. If you have any recommendations for the next episode, please post them in the comment section below. And as always, until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to another episode of the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be taking a look at Clark Field. This is a somewhat famous location, probably southeast of Novak, and directly south of the Toxic Dump Site, which is where we visited in the previous episode. Now, the reason I said this place might be somewhat famous is because during the quest, Come Fly With Me, you have to come to this area to find the igniting agent in order to send the Bright followers on their mission to outer space. Now, in order to find that igniting agent, there are one of 2 spots to find it, and one of the spots is actually outside of the location, just nearby, and you can actually see that right here in this scenic shot. That dead body is a scavenger named Mr. Radical. Alright guys, let's go ahead and check out Clark Field. And then here on the Pip-Boy, we can see the location of Clark Field, as I said, just southeast of Novak. Pretty easy to reach, honestly. Now, as you approach, you're going to find a dead body. Now, it says search scavenger, but he will have a journal on him, Mr. Radical's journal, which reads, Day 1. Love the suit. Can scavenge anywhere now. Screw the rads. I hereby Christian myself, Mr. Radical. Get it? Huh. Day 4. Suit passed first test with flying yellow colors. Overnight visit to Yucca Mountain. Didn't go too deep because something big moving down tunnel. Rad level high even where I was, and I didn't feel a tickle. Go rad suit, go! Day 5. Vomited all morning. Didn't splash on suit or I'd be pissed. Must be something I ate. Day 9. Exciting! Ran across old woman's scrapyard. Bought glowing container for measly 50 caps. Heading for Clark Field to prove suit at higher rad levels. If it holds up, I'm going to pop this jar of goop open and pour it all over me. I bet I could swim in this stuff if I had enough of it. Oh yeah. So as we can see here, this scavenger was actually named Mr. Radical, and he had a big misunderstanding about radiation and just how strong his suit is. Now, in Fallout, of course, radiation suits are good, but they're not impervious. So, definitely our good friend here was highly mistaken, and he paid the ultimate price for his ignorance. Now, before we contemplate more about Mr. Radical's journal, because I do want to talk about him more, we have to fight off some golden geckos, and there's a plethora of them here. As you can see here, they're actually somewhat tough. That golden gecko just took a shot from an anti-material rifle and lived to tell the tale. And then Veronica kept trying to kill herself. I swear, by the end of this series, she is going to die. But with Veronica's help, we're able to efficiently take out all of the golden geckos. Now, if you come here at an early level, like I often do, the golden geckos will prove much more of a challenge than they do in this video. Then we have this collapsed structure over here, and if we jump around, we can actually get to the top of it. However, from this angle, you're unable to. You have to kind of go over to your right, jump on top of some debris, and then you can get up here. But there's nothing up here besides a cool vantage point of the surrounding area. Now, Clark Field appears to be some kind of power plant and nuclear waste storage facility that was damaged during the Great War. And then over here, we can find like a parking area with a truck that has been like cut in half. And basically, there's nothing much in this truck though, but of course we can go inside and we can find some metal boxes. But I'm kind of surprised this truck didn't have any kind of nuclear waste inside of it. Seems like that would have made sense, but instead we just have some tires. And then over here by this white crate, we can find a dead body or a skeleton along with a pack of mentats. So not terrible loot, but not a whole lot for all of the trouble fighting the golden geckos. Then on the southern end of the Clark Field, we can find a dead pack Brahmin, and here we can find the other canister of the isotope 239 igniting agent, along with some stim packs. So, pretty good find and easy to access during the quest, come fly with me. And we also have these water storage tanks, and all of the water appears to be highly radiated, and you actually get the prompt to drink the water, but I was unable to drink it, but it does give you a significant amount of rads. Now, there are two things I want to mention at Clark Field. Now, the first is related to Fallout New Vegas lore. So if you've been to Camp Searchlight and done the quest Wheel of Fortune, or if you've investigated the lore there, you would know that when the bombs fell, the fire department and police there went to a nearby nuclear storage facility and took out the nuclear waste in order to try and keep it safe. That nuclear waste is what the Legion used to poison Camp Searchlight. And I wonder, since Clark Field is somewhat near to Searchlight, if that Clark Field is where that nuclear waste came from. At least, it's just a theory. I couldn't find any confirmation of this online. And the second thing is Mr. Radical in his journal mentioned Yucca Mountain, and while Clark Field might not be real in real life, Yucca Mountain certainly is. It is located just northwest of Las Vegas, and it's a very famous and formerly controversial issue within the United States. Now, Yucca Mountain is obviously just a mountain in Nevada, but there is a nuclear waste disposal site there in real life, or there was supposed to be. In 2002, the U.S. government signed a law that would create a huge disposal site for the nation's nuclear waste. However, it faced tons of pushback from the state of Nevada and the local cities in the area, and eventually construction stopped. It's worth noting that 3 U.S. presidents did try to finish the project. Bush, Obama, and Trump all pushed for the completion of the facility. However, construction ended in 2018 due to court issues and issues with the local governments. But obviously, as we have explored within the world of Fallout, the former pre-war government did not care at all for environment or states' rights, and anywhere could be turned into a nuclear waste disposal site. And really, unfortunately, Yucca Mountain does not make a physical appearance within Fallout New Vegas. It is only mentioned. Perhaps because it's actually quite far away from Las Vegas. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any recommendations for the next episode of the Unexplored Mojave, please post them in the comment section below. And as always, until next time. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be checking out the Highway 95 Vipers Encampment. This is a location just south of Novak. and it features a lot of vipers, and obviously they use this to ambush would-be travelers and caravans on their way across the Mojave wasteland. Now, if you are a lower level, this location could prove to be difficult, but if you're a higher level, it's quite easy to take out everyone. As we see here, I'm using my trusty anti-material rifle to kill them. And as we can see that this lad went absolutely flying to the moon. What a legend. I don't know why, but in the last couple of episodes, the anti-material rifle has really been launching people with these explosive rounds. But for the most part, that was able to take care of all of the vipers. There was just 1 or 2 left, so pretty easy to deal with. Now, there really isn't a whole bunch of loot here. There's a metal box, but nothing inside of it, and then some ammunition crates, and some bedrolls. Now, the best loot here is a Star Sunset Sarsaparilla bottle cap. On one of the beds, we can find 3 bottle caps, one of which is a star bottle cap. So, not bad at all. And then we can find the piece of that gunslinger, the Viper gunslinger that went flying. And we could find some, pretty normal loot on his dead body. Now, to the south of the encampment is a Bright follower, part of Jason Bright's cult. Don't know how he ended up here, but perhaps he had a bad run-in with the Vipers. And as I mentioned earlier, here's the location just south of Novak. Now, something kind of interesting about this location is actually the nearby Clark Field has golden geckos, and sometimes the Vipers and golden geckos will get into a fight, and the golden geckos will most likely win this fight, meaning that when you come here, all of the Vipers could be killed. Now, the Vipers do respawn every 3 days, so it is not suitable for player housing. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this episode of the Unexplored Mojave. If you have any recommendations for the next video, please post them in the comments section below. And, as always, until next time.